Welcome to Disaffected Leftovers Live. It is Thursday, February 19th, 2026. And my co-pilot, my sister, Jess Ann, she's in the background tonight. She's writing comments because we're doing an experiment to make sure that we are going out to Rumble, to YouTube, and to Twitter. So if you'll bear with me, guys, the only way for me to check is to do it live. I want to make sure that we're showing up on Twitter for people. So let me take a look. It looks like we are live. It looks that way, but I'm not sure. Bear with me. Thank you. I wish I knew what this looked like for viewers, but there's no test function here for me. So I hope people are seeing it. And I'm going to close that out. All right, welcome. You know, we call this leftovers, but I think this is more of an amuse-bouche, an aperitif, because I'm going to preview some of the stuff that I'm going to talk about on the Sunday show. And those of you, thank you, everybody who's joined us already. Please be prepared. I am going to repeat some of the things that you hear me say, and there's a reason for it because other people come in and join us later. Last week's show on Sunday, we had a lot of technical problems with. We do know, and we know you've been waiting for it all week. We have too. Kevin's working on it. He's actually on the road right now, driving to New York City and New Jersey to pick up a very large monetary amount of new equipment that we need to get everything settled for our technology, processors, PCs, video cards, encoders, cables, all sorts of things we've been needing for a long time to make the show run smoother. So he's trying to do everything at once. He's driving, he's buying things, and he's trying to get the show cleaned up and put back out. So sorry you waited so long. I anticipate that either by later tonight, Thursday, or by tomorrow, Friday, last week's show, which was a really good one, if I do say so myself, will be back up. And of course, we'll have a new show for you on Sunday as well. So I want to tell you a story from the dentist's office. I was in the chair the other day getting yet another crown because when you get old, your body starts falling apart. Half of my teeth are fake. They're either crowns or implants, and they've costed me $30,000 so far over the years. I always have to complain about money. But I'm going to call her Sandra, not her real name. My dental hygienist technician, excuse me, if she ever sees this, she's going to correct me. My capital D, capital A, dental assistant, Sandra, and I always talk and chat about things while she's getting ready to work on my mouth. And she often tells me stories about the youth today because she's got a 16-year-old son. And Sandra is my age. She's a Gen X mom. And so she comes from the before times the way I do, where there were something closer to normal and not insane parental child rearing standards. So, for example, she does not give her son, her 16-year-old son, unlimited access to the internet. He doesn't have unlimited access to a smartphone. Of course, all of his other friends do. So she has to put up with, I'm the only one and it's not fair. And not only does she have to hear that from her son, but to my great irritation, almost all the other parents, they think she's weird. Because they let their kids have everything and be exposed to anything all the time in their pocket, on their person, no parental supervision. So if she's driving them all to a lacrosse game or something like that, one of the other kids will whip out a cell phone in the back seat and we'll start playing popular music. And all of a sudden, of course, because it's 2026, it's the 2020s, the lyrics are obscene. And I don't mean obscene the way you and I, if you're near my age, if you're Gen X, you grew up in the 80s and 90s, not obscene by those standards, actually obscene. Let me remind you that the highest charting, most popular song of the year 2020 was called WAP, WAP, or Wet Ass Pussy. Wet Ass Pussy. So she makes them shut all that shit off. And I started, well, we were talking about what the hell is wrong with parents. And then, of course, what goes wrong with their kids. It's not just that they're being exposed to obscenity and that it's normalized and there's no parental pushback, so they don't even, it's not even a thrill of rebellion for them. This is completely stuff like wet ass pussy and I'm gonna fuck you in the butt. There's not even a teenage rebellion element to this. This has been normalized. They don't even expect to be scolded by adults. They're not embarrassed to play it in front of adults because they don't think there's anything to be embarrassed about, because adults don't tell them no. They don't. I've never seen anything like this. I know I say it all the time, but I'm right about this. This generation is entirely different. It's a whole cultural shift. It's not like my mom's generation into ours. It's not that gradual change. It's not like that at all. It's like a whole new world of absolutely no boundaries. So we started talking about the ways that kids her son's age are emotionally and intellectually incompetent. And they don't know. She brought this up. I do instigate these conversations when I find somebody who I think will be willing to discuss it with me without looking at me and going, "You're weird, Thamar." But actually, Sandra brings these things up with me because she sees it too. And I really appreciate that, because there are a lot of people out there, and you know this if you're somebody like me, if you see the world roughly in the same way I do, you've had this experience too. Your peers will look at you and actually affect that they think you're weird. And I think half the time they don't think you're weird. I think they feel that they have to affect that you are so that they are seen as cool, even when they know it's wrong. People are so fake these days. Double mug of lesbian tea, by the way. Lesbian tea is my nighttime drink. Why is it lesbian tea? Because it's celestial seasonings, wild berry zinger, and sometimes chamomile. And that's what lesbians drink. So she's talking about the emotional deficiencies of these kids. And she told me a story that is astonishing. The kids who are coming into the dental office to get dental work, and I don't just mean cavities with shots and drilling, that's part of it. I'm also talking about just normal stuff that doesn't hurt, like cleanings. The kids are coming in absolutely terrified, and some of them are refusing to walk down the hallway. And it's not 1 out of 10 either. She didn't put a percentage on it, but she says this is not just occasionally. It's starting to happen. It's starting to become normal. So last week, a 14-year-old girl, I don't remember what procedure she needed to get done, was scheduled, and her parents came in. Astonishing, actually a mother and a father, but as you'll see, that made absolutely no difference, because whatever mother and father have been doing has been neglect all the way up. Well, she decided a few steps down the hallway to the exam room that she was terrified and panicking and could not do it, and stopped and started screaming. It's gonna hurt! It's gonna hurt! It's gonna hurt! It's gonna hurt! Screaming. Parents trying, okay, I don't know. Okay, Becky, okay. No, it's gonna hurt, it's gonna hurt. I'm not gonna go, I'm not gonna go. I'm not making fun of the girl. Yes, she is actually regressing. She is in toddler stage. She's not matured beyond toddler stage, even though she looks and sounds like a 14-year-old. I'm not making fun of her. This is parental neglect. This is absolutely shitty parenting. It is not this girl's fault. She has been failed. Then she dropped to the floor in the fetal position, right there in the middle of the hallway to the exam room, and screamed and flailed and refused to move. And her parents, mom and dad, picked widow baby up and brought her back outside to the car and try again another time. What in hell is going on? And how much more of this is going to happen? This is alarming. And I put up something about this on Substack. I told the story on Substack. And I got a comment from a dental hygienist who says that she is seeing the same thing in her practice. She described a 16 or a 17-year-old boy who every time he comes to get a cleaning, right? Again, we're talking about cleanings. We're not, oh my God, drilling in cavities. Let's talk about drilling in cavities. No kids look forward to getting shots. They don't like getting vaccination shots. They don't like getting Novocaine shots in the mouth. Needles are scary to kids. There are very few kids who are not afraid of needles. That's a normal childhood fear. You do have to get over it. You have to accept it and endure it. And generally, not everybody, but yes, generally, most kids, after they have the experience once or twice, realize that it's not the kind of pain that they thought it was, that they can handle it, that it's over with very quickly. And especially with the dental shot of Novocaine, I've had one instance of extraordinary pain getting a Novocaine shot, and that was just an accident that could have happened to anybody. The dentist needle went directly into my nerve. And it was probably the most horrifying, painful, frightening thing. It was all over in a second, but it literally shot me up out of the chair. I was screaming. If you've ever had a nerve touched, literally touched, it's unlike anything you've ever experienced. It was like a quicker version of the most intense pain of when you have an abscessed tooth that is involved with a nerve. But the thing about it was, I mean, it scared the hell out of me. But literally 2 seconds later, it's entirely gone because the Novocaine hit the nerve immediately. So it was like, ah, oh, right? And I sat there and got through the dental procedure. You know, my heart was racing a little bit. I had to calm down a little bit, but the pain was gone immediately. So most kids learn that you can handle this stuff. When I was a kid, I really didn't like needles. I went to the dentist a lot. I had a lot of cavities as a kid, and I didn't like the needles, but you know, even my abusive mother did some of the basic parental stuff right. I would not have been allowed to refuse to get a cavity treated. I would not have been picked up and carried like a widow baby back to the car. No, that's not what was going to happen. We're going to have this done. And I'm glad, because I got over it and I stopped fearing the dentist the more I went to the dentist. So anyway, that's a digression. So this dental hygienist tells her story on my Substack post about this. And she says she's got a 16 or 17-year-old boy patient. Mommy comes to every single one of his cleanings. This is also not normal. This is new normal. When I was that age, a 16 or 17-year-old kid, half of them would have driven themselves to the dentist, because every 16-year-old on his or her 16th birthday immediately got their learner's permit. I think you can get a learner's permit in some. I think I got mine in the late stages of being 15. It's probably variable by state, but every single kid, it was very rare that any 16-year-old didn't immediately want a driver's license. That's your first adult rite of passage. Before you can vote, before you can buy cigarettes, before you can go to a bar, buy alcohol, you have the freedom of driving a car. Well, I'm sure you guys have noticed that Gen Z started with millennials, definitely Gen Z, and I don't know what's going on with what they call Gen Alpha, but a lot of these kids don't want driver's licenses because they are terrified of the world. They literally do not know how to navigate in their own town. They've never been allowed to walk to school. They're not allowed to walk to the grocery store or the corner store by themselves. And so even when they do get on transportation, they don't, I'm not exaggerating, they don't know how to navigate on foot or by car to a place they know in their own city without step-by-step GPS directions. That's not normal. It's mental crippling. But no, if most of the 16 or 17-year-olds, if mommy was involved at all, mommy would have dropped him off at the dentist and said, I'll be back at 3 o'clock when your appointment is over. No one's mother, unless you were actually mentally retarded kids or autistic kids, normal kids, no one's mother actually sat in the waiting room. That was not a thing that was done. Because mom had something else to do. She had grocery shopping to do. And she certainly did not accompany you to the exam in the dental operation room. That's just not a done thing. This is a done thing now. She says, this 16 or 17-year-old, mom comes along and proudly says she's there for moral support for her son, coos at him, sometimes reaches out to hold his hand when he's getting a little scared. This is disgusting. It's disgusting. This is really creepy. And I have no idea who this woman is. I'm sure she's not the only one. I'm sure she thinks she's doing right. But I look at this and I'm like, you're a freak, and you are turning your child into a helpless baby freak. And this dental hygienist says she's seeing this kind of behavior more and more. Jess is going to pull some comments from you guys for me to react to. So, better get no, these are not borderline glasses. I put down the borderline glasses. These are definitely Dollar General glasses, but they're like Dollar General Dr. Marcus Welby MD glasses. Chug Hesda says they only want vehicles to mow down federal agents these days. I don't have to stop following you. I don't have to pull over. Lol, no, I don't. I'm not arrested. You're not arresting me. Do you guys remember that on Disaffected maybe 3 or 4 months ago? These grown women, that one who was like, I'm a DA, district attorney. I'm a DA. I'm a DA. No. 38-year-old woman going, no. When the police were throwing her out of a bar for being drunk. I just like, wow. Jess, pull in a few. Well, let me tell you guys in the audience, wherever you are, if you have you can definitely do this on Rumble. I think we're getting monetized on YouTube now, but I don't know if the super chat super chat give money thing is functional. But I definitely am going to put paid comments right to the top of the stack, because that's how we support this show. That's how we pay for some of the equipment that's coming along. So thank you very much. If you want to go to the top of the queue, paying cash money will definitely let you skip ahead in the line. All right. Commenter 17 says, my nephew had neighbors calling the school on him when he had been seen walking around the neighborhood a half hour before school. This is around 10 years ago, when he was maybe 10 to 12. Of course. Well, you guys, we've noticed this for at least 20 years, actually. There's a writer and a mom named Lenore Skenazy. And I think she has a book of this title, but she's part of a movement, if you will, called Free Range Kids. And she's one of those parents from the before times, from the normal times, that says, no, you need to teach your kid to ride the subway, ride the city bus. Then you need to put your 10-year-old kid out on the street and let him get on the bus and get on the subway. This all was normal. It was all normal, guys. Almost everybody did it. You know that 3 o'clock traffic jam, that 2:30 to 3 p.m. traffic jam in your city? You guys are 40 or younger, you think that's normal. It's not. That never existed. I didn't even predict it could ever happen. It's because almost every parent drops off and picks up and chauffeurs their kids to school They will not let them ride the bus, and they sure as shit won't let them walk to school. Again, abnormal. When I was in elementary school, we moved around the country a lot, my family and I, so didn't stay in many schools for long. But when we lived in Southern California from 79 to 84, probably by the time 1982 came along, yeah, definitely by 82, I was walking to school by myself. So that would have made me 8 years old. Again, normal. I was among many kids walking up Placentia Boulevard from in Fullerton. I went to a school called Ruby Drive Elementary, and it was, I looked it up on a map. It's a mile from where our apartment was. So I walked a mile. A mile is not a long way to walk, you guys. It's like a 15, 20-minute walk. I walked a mile to school and a mile back every day. Mile to school, mile back every day. And nothing ever happened to me except that bitch Carol. Let me tell you about fucking Carol. She was this, oh, she was such a bitch. She was a little Mexican bitch too. I don't know what it was between me and Carol, but we hated each other. And she always wore these, little Polly Flinders dresses. These little, they looked like sort of like 19th century-ish things with little lacy ruffle collars. And she had two Laura Ingalls braids. I mean, she had this thick, beautiful dark hair, and it was always done up in really, really neat braids. But she was always picking on me and saying snotty things. She was like, I don't remember specifically, but she'd say something snotty or she'd whisper something snotty in class. But she'd do it so subtly that like she'd get my goat and I'd be like, "Grr!" And I'd get in trouble with the teacher, and she'd just sit there like this. Blink, blink, blink. So one day I got that fucking bitch. We were both walking back from Ruby Drive Elementary School, and I just ran at her and I pulled her by both pigtails and I threw her down into the ivy and I just pulled her hair. I don't remember how that stopped, but Carol never said a dick to me after that. Maybe sometime I'll tell you about the little bastard Brian Turner too. There's a similar story. I don't understand, guys. But what actually worries me a lot is, what are we going to do for these kids? What can we do? What's actually possible? I don't know the answer to this question. I was talking to a friend about this at lunch today. We're seeing a new kind of person. They're humans, of course. I'm not saying they're not humans. But this is a new kind of person that has not existed before. There's never been Homo sapien children before who were not parented at all, completely cosseted and coddled and hypnotized by having access to the internet on their smartphone from the time that they're toddlers. I don't know if I talked about this on the show. No, I put it on Substack too. Something similar happened at the barber shop last week when I got my hair cut. There was a 3-year-old boy, one of those exceptionally beautiful children. He was beautiful in the way a Gerber baby is like like a 10 for babies, but he was like that as a 3-year-old, and just huge smile, hugely engaged with the world, babbling. Some words you could understand, some you couldn't understand. He was the kind of kid who wanted to talk to all the adults in the room. He wanted to talk to the grandpa over there. He wanted to talk to his mom and dad. He wanted to be talked back to. You could see he was really living there in the moment, and he was going through the magazines. I go to an old school barber. He's my age. It's a very sparse place. Black chairs, one barber chair, one sink, one bathroom, and a coffee table with 16,000 piles of Car and Truck magazine and National Geographic and Golf Pro, right? Sports talk radio plays on the thing. I'm not into that anymore, but this is the atmosphere I like. Another thing I like about it, he's affordable. He cuts my hair the right way every single time, and he doesn't talk too much. He talks just the right amount of time. And you could sit there for 10 minutes and not talk, and nobody acts like they're offended. If you go to a salon and you get a woman or a gay man cutting your hair, it's like, and then Debbie said, blah, 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 and I was like, oh my God, did you? Have you talked to Debbie? Blah, 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 and I'm just like, shut up. So this kid says he's he's getting a little rambunctious. He's getting loud, right? His mother and his father are there, and I would put them at 30 years old, and they were both morbidly obese. So the kid probably is gonna end up being morbidly obese as well. Well, mom decided that he was getting too rambunctious, so she pulled out her iPhone. Honey, I don't know exactly what she was saying, but she clearly pulled up his favorite YouTuber and gave it to him. And I'm seeing this. I'm sitting in the barber's chair, so I'm seeing this in the mirror. The whole time I'm watching this little kid running around, and I've got this big smile on my face because you can see him learning to be a person in the world. And all he was doing is much good for all of us grown-ups, from young people to middle-aged people to the old people, as we were doing for him. I mean, it was just good for everybody. This is used to be more normal, right? But she decided he was getting too ill-behaved, and she sat him down, and I watched him as he took that phone. His eyes immediately went there. All his facial muscles slackened. The smile went away. I watched his eyes lose focus, and they lost expression. And he just started moving his fingers over the screen with his mouth open like this. It was as if I were watching the beginning of parental lobotomization of this child. I think we know how he's going to end up, don't we? In a few years, I'm going to see him at Clay's barbershop again. He's going to be fat. He's not going to be engaged with the world. He's going to have his own smartphone. And that's it. That's going to be it. This beautiful, engaged child is going to be brain dead within 5 years. What are we going to do? I ask you this, and if you have some ideas about this, please leave them in the comments. Jesse will pull them out and let me react to them. As I asked my friend at lunch today, can we fix them? Say they get to 18, they get to 20 years old. I'm not asking how to fix them. I'm asking, can we? Is it possible? Or has a developmental window closed where they will never be normally socialized humans? You know the phenomenon of feral children? They're rare. Maybe they're more common today. These are the kids who had horrendously abusive, torturous childhoods, far worse than mine. Kids who were actually locked in closets and not spoken to and not allowed to speak for years and years, never learned the language, didn't learn, defecate on themselves. There have been a couple of very famous true crime cases of this. Thankfully, that's very rare. But is this something on the feral kid spectrum? Because these kids, once they're rescued, they can't be rehabilitated. They tried. There's no fixing them. The developmental window is closed. Are we somewhere on that spectrum with these kids? And if we are, I don't want to contemplate what the world's going to be like for us, having to be around. How are we going to interact with these people? I'm going to check out a few comments here. Thank you very much, Jess, for pulling them. Let me go through a few of these. Tips greatly appreciated. Thank you, guys. So YouTube, the Riv 1321 says, I'm in college and one of the 18-year-old boys won't take the bus without his brother. Woof. From Twitter, Anders Carlson. Hello, Anders. Say hello to Brett Kwanda for me, baby. He says, it's insane. I traveled across the country at 17 to take the TOEFL. I don't know what that means, but maybe it's some kind of standardized test with nothing but a map. Well, yes, of course. You traveled across a country. What do you mean, a country? Does that country have a name? From YouTube, LMP69 said, damn, that's such a shame. My son is almost 21, severely autistic, and I can't begin to describe what I would give for my child to be able to engage like that. Yeah. Well, you know what? that's I my friend said this too. I think that a lot of what public schools and what many of us are accepting and calling a rise in autism in kids, this is not actual classic autism. This is induced autism symptoms, induced into normal children. My friend's hypothesis is it's not only the presence of the phone, it is the absence of normal interaction with their parents, because their parents are on phones all the time. A lot of parents are annoyed to be distracted from their Facebook scroll by their kid wanting their attention in the kitchen with them, right? So these kids are actually, like, if you could count them, they're getting fewer eye contact interactions, they're getting fewer vocal interactions, and their parents are walking around the house on their phone, acting as though they're not living in the same three-dimensional space in the same apartment with their kids. Of course they're going to act unsocialized. They don't know how to do it. Oh, Andrew says, oh, he's calling me Keisha. No, that's Alan. I don't think Alan's here tonight. Keisha is her name. Sage 501 sent a tip. Thank you. These are kids who will grow into the, quote, leaders who will think nothing of restricting or even abolishing personal liberty and personal autonomy because they've been taught to fear it. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree. Mediocre Witch, $5. Thank you. People call the cops if they see kids running around with adults in tow these days, especially if it's during school. Excuse me, let me start again. I messed that up. People call the cops if they see the kids running around without adults in tow these days, especially if it's during school hours. What's going through people's minds when they call the cops like that? What do they think? What crime do they think is being committed? What app? I guess I know the answer to this. So we've seen so many of these stories of just ordinary, normal mothers being literally arrested by police. You've seen it on camera for letting their kid walk to the park by themselves. It happens. I'm calling Child Protective Services. My God. My God. All right, let's switch gears a little bit here. I have something fun for you guys. So, do you remember the show I Dream of Genie? Most of you a little bit older will remember it. Some of you who are younger may have seen it in reruns. I don't know, does Nick at Night exist anymore, or anything like Nick at Night? Are there any channels on cable or on, well, I'm so old. Nobody watches cable anymore. I don't know if there's a content stream that does reruns of old American sitcoms, but I grew up on those. So I Dream of Genie was one of my favorite shows as a kid, and I was absolutely obsessed with having the bottle that was on that show. It's very recognizable. You all know what it is if you've heard of the show. And it was an almost autist level obsession. I wanted a Genie bottle, and I wanted one exactly like the show. I wanted it so badly that I would go when I was allowed. And yeah, you were allowed to go to. I was allowed to go to garage sales down in Southern California, where we lived. Apartment complexes were often built, so they were like four squares. So there'd be this big building, and in all four corners there'd be four apartments to it, and then the next one with another four apartments. There'd be a breezeway between them, and then there'd be an alley where garages hid in the back, and then on the next street there'd be another block of them facing back to back. And people would open up their garages on Saturdays and Sundays and have garage sales. So sometimes there'd be 4 or 5 of them just on one block. And sometimes my mother would take us down the street, or we'd go to what they called in California the swap meet, which is what we call a flea market here on the East Coast. And I would buy any kind of floral vase that looked even a little bit like a Genie bottle. I was always looking for something that looked exactly like it. So I had this collection of cheap glass for flowers that wasn't quite a Genie bottle, but almost was. For a while, my favorite was Avon, an empty bottle of Avon bubble bath. I've even had a hard time finding a picture of this thing. Tell me in the comments if any of you old people remember this. Do you remember the Avon bubble bath that came in a pink ribbed bottle? It was like rib, 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 rib. I loved that because it reminded me of the round part of the bottle where Genie was inside with her little couches and stuff. Well, anyway, I follow Jesse. You remember we had Avon bubble bath bottles in our house. I think some of our mother's friends were Avon ladies, and Grandma bought Avon products a lot. And I think Grandma Slocum saved those bottles for me. And she would also Grandma Slocum used to let me dress up in girls' clothes. So it's a wonder that I didn't become a psychosexual serial killer, because she would let me wear her nighties and she'd pin them on me, or because I wanted to play a female character, and she had a lot of costume jewelry, Avon, Sarah Coventry, stuff like that. And she'd let me play with it, and she'd say, "Don't tell your mother I did this." Oh, Grandma. So she let me I snuck home. She had these necklaces with baubles and beads on them and sparkles and rhinestones and fake rubies. So I would take them home, and in my bedroom, I would play Genie bottles. So I would rearrange the furniture. That's right. Aunt Connie loved the costume jewelry too. I would rearrange my bed and the chair. And sometimes I had a playhouse that was made out of a cardboard box or something. I'd rearrange everything so the furniture was in a circle, and I'd kind of use tape and put up my grandma's costume jewelry to look like the sparkles on the inside of Genie's bottle. And I'd sit there and go, when your kids like magic, but when you're a kid in a really frightening home like mine, you spend a lot of time in magical fantasy worlds where you have magical powers. You can make yourself disappear. You can make other people disappear. You can send them to the cornfield. I've talked to a lot of kids who come from abusive backgrounds, and we tended to obsess on things like telekinesis, moving things with your mind. We would try to, for a long time, I thought I could be a fire starter like Drew Barrymore, and I wanted to be able to set things on fire just with my mind thinking about it. Real dark stuff. But this is how I played around as a kid. I never lost my love of that show and the fact that I wanted to have this bottle. So I want to show you something, because I follow Barbara Eden on Twitter. God love that woman. She's in her 90s and she still looks great, and she's still sharp as a tack. And she is one of the last of old Hollywood. When she gives interviews, she is a classy, put together woman. She's a lady. And she has always embraced the fact that she's best known for this character, even though she had a career on the stage, on Broadway, TV, movies, all over the place. But she never felt stereotyped. She's embraced Genie as a character. She says, "I'm very lucky to have embodied a character that made so many people happy." I just think it's the most wonderful attitude. So I want to show you what she put up on Twitter. In her tweet, she said, "A lot of people have told me that they wanted to know what it would be like to live inside Genie's bottle. So my team used some modern AI technology, and here's the best part." She goes, "This is what Genie would have seen when she was in the bottle, and it's what I saw when I was in there, except of course, one side was open for the camera. And the one thing they didn't get right was in my bottle, there was an inset table with an oil lamp, which you don't see in here." So I'm like, I'm going crazy now, right? So I wrote back on Twitter, "Miss Eden, this is delightful. When I was a little kid, I used to make my room into your bottle with my grandma's costume jewelry." And I'm going to show you this. Barbara Eden herself liked my tweet. Look at her right there. That picture of Barbara Eden, that's her. And now I want to show you. I want to show you something that some of you have seen, but is one of my favorite possessions. Hold on for a second. Hold on. Okay. Do. Take this thing off. Okay. Are you ready? Yes, an honest to God, authentic Genie bottle. Oh, good. It's rendering really well on the camera. Look at the fine detail. This is hand painted. I should have dusted it first. This is an exact replica of that bottle. And I'll tell you the story of this and how you can get one of your own if you want. This is absolutely my favorite luxury possession. This is literally a childhood dream come true that I didn't think would ever be possible. How in the world would I get a hold of a bottle from a show on NBC in the 1960s? They're probably all destroyed, and there's one in the Smithsonian, so I'll never have one. Well, I'm not the only Gen Xer with that obsession. So these bottles, underneath that beautiful paint job, is a smoked dark amber glass. Those bottles. Sorry, I got a commenter 17. Josh, are your ashes going in that after you pass? I would answer that question, but because you use that ridiculous euphemism pass, I'm going to pretend I don't know what you mean. After I pass. He passed. I'm sorry, I hate pass. After I die, yes, perhaps my ashes will go in there. That's a good idea, actually. And then somebody should get that in my will. They're opening up looking for Barbara Eden, and it's like some crusty old burnt up faggot. So the bottles for that show are actually Jim Beam whiskey. This is the 1964 Jim Beam Christmas decanter, this bottle. Smoked amber glass. They weren't painted up like this, but this was the special Christmas edition. And yes, the bottle under here, there are reproductions out there. There are really good reproductions that are made in brass or that are cast in glass. But this under here is a Jim Beam original from 64 that my friend found on eBay almost 25 years ago for me. So it came and it was just a plain bottle. And I didn't, I was in my 20s, so I couldn't really afford anything luxury. So I waited for years, but there are some artists out there who hand paint these bottles. And I sent my bottle to one called a lady called Michelle. And I think it cost $400, worth every penny, because she hand paints this and it is as accurate as you can possibly get. It looks exactly like it was on the show. It looks great up close in person. And hers are so good that NBC and Barbara Eden have commissioned Michelle to make replicas for them and for reunion shows. So if you are interested, if you want a Genie bottle of your own, I think Michelle's site is called Dreamy Genie Bottles. Look up Genie Bottles, Michelle, Dreamy Genie Bottles. I don't know what the prices are these days, but if you want one of your own, you can have it. So staying in the topic of things that are colorful, let's take a look at one of the latest trans shooter. So I'm going to get into this in more detail for the show on Sunday, but you guys have probably heard that there was yet another public murder spree by a trans person, this time in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. Apparently at a hockey game, a guy who calls himself a woman just popped off and, well, let's put Andy No's tweet up here. And he says, the trans mass shooter in Rhode Island who shot 5 people at a school hockey game, killing a girl and a woman, previously responded to me, and he's saying he responded to Andy, on this platform. He was offended by my reporting on trans violence. So here is the Troon shooter from last year, 2025, responding to Andy. He says, Gaysians are more likely to commit crime. Post that stat. Oh, really? Oh, really? Roberta? Got a picture of this guy. Take a look at that beauty. Who doesn't want to roll in the hay with that one, huh? Lovely. So this is from Redux, which I recommended on this week's show. They are redux.info, reduxx.info is the most accurate and ballsy site that tells the truth about these sick men. They don't play pronoun games. They're able to find information that the police try to hide from the public. They're a very good source of information. So Redux says, police have identified the suspect responsible for the horrific shooting at Lynch Arena in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. Robert Dorgan, who also went by the name Roberta Esposito. Let me do it NPR style. Let me see if I can do it. Sometimes I need a little practice to get my rolling R's right. Who also went by the name Roberta Esposito, shot 4 family members and sorry, wait, I'm hung up on this. I think Dorgan is that sounds like a Scottish name to me. It's either Scottish, English, Irish, or Welsh. So he goes from being Robert Dorgan to Roberta Esposito. So not only is I'm sorry, little tech glitch here. Jesse's messaging me privately. Jesse, you're asking about audio, but I can see, at least on my meter, that that my audio is working. So I suspect that there's something on your end. Perhaps you're perhaps you need to drop out and come back in. Sorry about that. Some bug here happened. So not only has he gone from being a man to, quote, being a lady, but he's a Latina. Shot 4 family members and a friend at a youth hockey game, killing 2 and injuring 3 others before killing himself. Yeah, I was about to say, I mean, I feel nothing. In fact, sometimes I feel pleasure when I know they kill themselves, because that means that we taxpayers don't have to pay for their incarceration and their food and their useless mental health treatment that won't do a goddamn thing. You can't rehabilitate a person like this. This is an evil person. They need dead. They need to be dead, but they never get executed anymore. So I don't give a shit. I'm usually happy when they kill themselves, except, of course, that means that he escapes trial. The surviving family and friends will never get to see him put on trial and have to actually face his crime and hear his sentence. Here's what I think we know so far about the details. This happened on February 16th, 2026. And he killed a total of 5 people were shot. It was a high school hockey league game. 2 of the people were shot dead, so they died. The people he shot dead, his ex-wife and his own son. His own son. His ex-wife, who he tried to become. Most of these guys, these Buffalo Bills, these Norman Bateses, they literally do try to become their wives or their ex-wives. They try to take over their identity. It is exactly the psychosexual derangement that you are familiar with from movies like Psycho and Dressed to Kill and Silence of the Lambs. What is unconfirmed, it may be confirmed by now, but the information I have to hand right now says possibly some of his in-laws were victims in the shooting, but that is not clear. We've got a few more pictures of him. Let's see what a beautiful lady he is. Now look at this guy. Let me see if I can do it. See, oh, I need tape to give myself roid tits. Am I troon? Am I trooning right? I said, am I trooning right? Put the fucking lotion in the basket. How do you deal with this insanity? How much more of this are we going to have to take? It's horrible, but I have to laugh. I have to laugh or I'll lose my goddamn mind. Here he is at his son's graduation, his son's college. What the fuck is that on his head? What I'll tell you what that is. That is a 59-cent. No, it's two 59-cent packages, so that makes it $1.18's worth of Nissin oodles of noodles with blue food coloring added. That's what that is. It's like, remember the last Biden's last White House spokeslady, Karine Jean-Pierre. I called her Our Lady of Noodles. And she had those, it looked like her hair was made out of ramen. That's what that is. And the thing about this is, this guy apparently was like rah MAGA and big into guns and ammo and stuff like that. He was apparently a right winger. And, you know, people were like, well, doesn't that prove that blah, blah, blah? Look, cluster B is cluster B. This is psychopathy. It's psychosexual derangement. It's in the cluster B range. It's in the dark tetrad. It's psychosexual derangement. And in fact, I believe his wife divorced him the divorce was final, I think, in 2020. And in her first application for divorce, when asked for the reasons why, she cited in these words, narcissistic personality disorder traits, obviously. But then she amended that to irreconcilable differences. I'm speculating here, but this is a reasonable speculation. I will bet you anything that she was pressured not to diagnose him because that was bigoted. So I bet his wife, who obviously knew what was going on, that woman had clearly clued into the fact that she had married a malignant narcissist and psychopath, that it was absolutely at least narcissistic personality disorder, but she was told to shut up, don't say it, don't notice it, or the judge won't like it because you're being mean to a trans woman. I'm pretty sure that's what happened. Let me read a couple of your comments here. Let's see. Barshi says, Josh passes as a straight white nationalist. Really? I didn't even buy any special clothes. Anders says, I love your alfalfa. I guess I do have an alfalfa, don't I? There. Now I have like a Mo haircut, like Mo of, what do you call it? Three Stooges. What do you say, guys? Pretty. What else do we have here? Ellen shows up. Hey, that's Keisha. Ellen was here, is Keisha. Ellen, $5. Thank you very much. Cash tips get you to the front of the line, people. Support this show. Keep it coming. She says, the trans rights activists have been having a fit on Twitter saying it's not trans violence. Saying, he was a cross-dresser. Educate yourself. So, Ellen, are you saying that they're claiming that he was not transgender, but some entirely different kind of person called a cross-dresser? They think those are different. They probably, but you know what? You haven't been allowed to say the word cross-dresser for years. Like, I've watched you guys over the past 10 years that trans has taken off. Anytime you see somebody in public say cross-dresser, somebody jumps and screams, transgender woman, not cross-dresser. What they are is they're sick transvestites. They're transvestites. They hate that word because it sounds clinical and sick, because it is clinical and sick. Deadly Thing says, oh, hello, Deadly Thing. Nice to see you. Eddie Izzard, the British comedian, trooned, yes, he sure did, and calls himself Susan after his hated ex-girlfriend. See? What did I tell you? They put their skin suits, they're skinwalkers. It's disgusting. So gross. Let me see what else I have here for you. Oh, well, speaking of psychosexual derangement, you guys know the film, of course, Silence of the Lambs. And in that film, I'll give a synopsis in case anybody doesn't remember or hasn't seen it. Sorry. Kev Hill, $10. He says, here's 10 stripper bucks, but you have to keep it on. Woo! Everybody's like, bring your rosaries to the live stream, guys. You're going to need them. So Silence of the Lambs was a 1991 film. I think Jonathan Demme was the director, starring Anthony Hopkins and Jodie Foster. Sorry, I got to have my nicotine. And the plot is that there is a psychosexual troon killer who's kidnapped a was it a senator's daughter in the movie? And there's this manhunt. I'm sorry, woman hunt. Well, yeah, it was a woman hunt because they're trying to find the kidnapped girl, but you know, they're looking for a lady. And Jodie Foster's character is Clarice Starling. She's an FBI agent. And Jesse says, it's ma'am hunt. Exactly. You got to use your ma'ams. Jodie Foster's character, Clarice Starling, is an FBI agent. She's tracking him. And in order to get insights into this sick guy's mind, she goes and visits a very famous psychopath who's in prison, the Anthony Hopkins character. What the hell was his name? Dr. Hannibal Lecter. Buh. Hannibal Lecter, who was a cannibal serial killer, but Hannibal Lecter was also a brilliant psychiatrist. So she tries to get insight on how to track this guy from Dr. Hannibal Lecter, and Hannibal Lecter psychologically torments Jodie Foster and pricks at her insecurities and delights in doing it. He's a sadist, right? And there's a line in the film that even back in 1991, I think was a sop and a cop-out from the liberals to these freaks. We're like, you know, this guy, Jamie Gum, I guess was the guy's character. We also call him Buffalo Bill. He's not a true transsexual. He just thinks he is. He wants to be one. Well, first of all, there's no such thing as a true transsexual. There's no such thing as a trans person. There's no such thing as a transgender person. There's no such thing as a transsexual. There are people we call transsexuals who've had surgery to approximate the anatomy of the opposite sex, but none of this is real. None of this is true, right? Well, you know, if you've gone all the way that you've had your penis sliced open and inverted and had your balls removed, then, you know, you really are a true one. No, you're just significantly psychologically sicker than the majority of them. That doesn't make you truly that thing. And so there was that line there. And then along the past couple of years, a lot of the people who worked on Silence of the Lambs, some of the actors, I think the director even, have apologized repeatedly for making an anti-trans film. Yeah, an anti-trans film. Because they want you to believe a lie. They want you to believe that, remember Psycho, Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho? The Bates Motel is run by Norman Bates. His mother, I think, was Norma. But by the time, we don't know this through most of the film. We think that his mother, Norma, lives in that creepy Victorian French Second Empire Addams Family house that sits on the hill. above the motel. We hear Norman talking to his mother all the time, but we don't see her. So we assume for most of the movie that his old mom does live there. And it's only at the end of the movie that we realize that Norma herself has been dead. Mrs. Bates has been dead for years, and her desiccated corpse is sitting in a rocking chair in one of the upstairs bedrooms. And her son, Norman, has taken on her identity and dresses up in her clothes. That's real. This is a real psychological profile. And yes, I think it is the extreme end of what happens in a narcissistically enmeshed relationship with a personality disordered mother and a son with whom she is way too emotionally enmeshed, that she's emotionally incestuous with. So yes, I do think this is all on that same spectrum. And I'm not saying that everybody who comes from a background like that is going to end up being an insane serial killer. But yes, I am saying that the gay boys with cluster B mothers who end up being drag queens, I was a drag queen for a while, we are on the same spectrum because this comes from the same psychological root. Most people don't go all the way over to insanity, but it's not a wholly separate thing. That's genuinely what I believe. Got some more comments here. Arclight 2879, $5. Thank you very much. Says it's like the Ultimate Warrior tried to become a woman. Yeah, the Ultimate Warrior, that character. Absolutely. Genie Gold, in his typically cheap fashion, gave $2. I love you, George. Person hunt, person-centered language, please. That's right. And let me remind you guys about person-centered language. Don't talk about, nobody is a diabetic. They are a person with diabetes. Nobody is disabled. No, there are no disabled people. There are only people with disabilities. You know, they're walking with their disabilities, except when the disability is that they can't walk. There are no hungry people, only people experiencing hunger. There are also no homeless people. There are only people of unhoused status. Next up, we've got LMP69, $5. Thank you very much. Have you heard about a case involving Laura Owens? No, that name is not familiar to me. She's charged with 14 felonies for faking several pregnancies with several men, most notably with a former Bachelor star, the show The Bachelor, Clayton Eckhart. No, I've no 14 felony. Oh, okay. That is classic borderline personality disorder. Classic borderline. Jesse, can you please boot Genie Gold from the chat? Thank you. Classic borderline personality disorder. He says, you're only worth $2, you coos. All right, let me let you in on a little. Genie is my dear closest friend George. We went to college together. We've known each other a long time, and I mean we rib each other like this all the time. But he's one of the people I love most in the world, and I'm really grateful to still be friends with him after all these years. Because you know, a lot of us, I've lost most of my friends, changing my mind. But George and his man Clay both came around to being conservatives too. So we have all of these in jokes because we cut up a lot. We got to know each other really well when we went to Sarah Lawrence College, and we would do these parody songs. Actually, I think he came up with this one on his own before me. Do you remember Madonna's song from, what movie was that from? And Genie, George, you can tell me that. It was from a movie soundtrack, but it was This Used to Be My Playground. Well, George rewrote that. I don't think he did all the lyrics, but instead of This Used to Be My Playground, this used to be my tampon. This used to be my OB. And then the other snippet I remember is, And why did they give them wings? Heavy flow. And my money flew as the prices grew. They were cheaper than. George, we have to finish the lyrics to that whole thing and actually record it. I will not be able I will not be able to die or pass and rest peaceably until we record that entire thing. All right, we got another here from C. Horton Graham. $50. Generous, madam. Thank you very much. She says, this is for last week. I didn't get to watch it until Saturday, and it made my it made my Valentine's Day to hear Josh say trifling ass fools. So happy belated Valentine's Day, everyone. Thank you, C. Horton Graham. I appreciate that. I do know who you are. I'm just not saying your name so that everybody can, so that you can be anonymous and stuff. Ellen, again, obviously she's making friends with George, who is a bad influence. Ellen, $2, says, Josh, it's called food insecurity now, not hunger. Whatever. Jesus Christ. If you want me to keep sending you my food stamps, you better treat me better. Oh, you better be good to me. That's how it's gotta be now. Arclight, 2879, another $2. This is going to become a thing now. Everybody's like, I'm never going to get more than $2. Says, dude turned himself into one sturdy bitch. Hey, show enough did. Well, oh, I'm sorry. I get so distracted, but let me put this up. So I was telling you about how all of the crew on Silence of the Lambs has been apologizing for all the damage they've done to the trans community. Well, the actor who played Jamie Gum / Buffalo Bill sat down for an interview. I've seen some video clips of this, but let's put this on here. This is just nauseating. So here he goes. This is from Pink News. It's Ted Levine who played that character. You guys, should I give it the voice? I'm going to give it the voice. We all know more, and I'm a lot wiser about transgender issues. There's some lines in that script and movie that are unfortunate. It's unfortunate that the film vilified that, and it's fucking wrong. And you can quote me on that. I didn't play him as being gay or trans. I think he was just a fucked up heterosexual man. That's what I was doing. Oh my God. You see how it is, right? Just a fucked up heterosexual man, because men are fucked up, aren't they? Women are wonderful and men are fucked up. And do you know who is the most fucked up kind of men? Do you know who the worst kind of men are? Those fucking straight men. The 98% of men in the world, the ones who actually get together with women and make babies, they're the worst. There is nobody more abnormal than the 98% of men who are heterosexual. Let's do. Jess, you're doing a fine job. God, we have so many comments. Oh my God, there's no way I could ever read them. Jess, you're doing a great job plucking them out and putting them in private here for me. I appreciate it. Wolf says, can you buy biltong with food stamps? Biltong, as you know, is the sponsor of the Sunday show, Disaffected. BiltongUSA.com. Fine cured meats. And as a matter of fact, this episode is powered by that, because my little meal to make sure my blood sugar didn't crash was 4 or 5 ounces of delicious beef biltong and some cottage cheese with heavy cream mixed in, and Walmart brand Mrs. Dash. I want to remind you guys too, I'm being very comedy here. But I'm also available. I run a side gig too. I run a private consulting and coaching firm. If I were licensed and degreed in mental health, you'd call it counseling or therapy, but I'm not licensed or degreed in mental health, and I'm not offering mental health therapy. But a lot of the topics I tackle with clients are, if you will, therapy adjacent. So I offer 1 hour video sessions for anybody who's got questions about a difficult relationship, dealing with cluster B personality symptoms in their family, being being pushed out of their social circles, losing their job over wokeness. But I also have people who just come and say, I don't have this in my family, but I'm seeing it all around. I don't have anybody else to talk to. I don't even trust my friends to talk about this because I'm afraid of being pushed out of their circles. If you need someone to be a sounding board, I'm happy to be that sounding board for you. And everything, of course, is entirely confidential. If you're interested, I'm bookable at joshuaslocum.net. My rates are on there. I'll tell you what my rates are. If you're a first-time client, it's $125 for an hour. If you're a returning client, it's $95 for an hour. And if you are a monthly supporter of my show, Disaffected, meaning you subscribe either through Substack monthly or through subscribestar.com, you get the same content everywhere. You get the lower rate as well. I've still got some slots open for the rest of February. So if you want to check out my calendar, go to joshuaslocum.net. And if you don't see a time there that works for you, just send me an email through the website. I regularly make time slots that I don't list on my regular working hours if I can accommodate you. So if that doesn't work for you, I can usually find a way to fit you in. So thanks very much. If I can help you, I'd like to help you. Now, back to the show. George, let me tell you, that car aerial's right over there in that closet. Don't forget. He's at $5. He says, well, that was a lot of words to say absolutely nothing. True, Miss Jude Fine. Mm. I'm trying. The Fox So Cunning and Free is now a monthly supporter. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Fox So Cunning and Free says Ted Levine, he's the actor. I'm sorry, I should remember to take this stuff off here. This is Ted Levine you're seeing on your screen who played Buffalo Bill. Fox says Ted Levine seems to forget that in that movie, Hannibal Lecter met Jamie Gum because Gum's boyfriend was his patient. No, I don't want that on either. I just want to take that off. Another $5 from Ellen. It's you guys play me like a goddamn slot machine. You just keep putting your dollars in there. You just keep pulling my trigger, and I'll come up with something for you. This is fantastic. Ellen says, here's my thing. If you're ashamed of a part you played in a movie and you trash it, you should be required to donate all of the money you've made from said production, including residuals, to charity. Bless you. Exactly. Mediocre Witch has a question. She wants to know if retards get a retard discount. Well, that depends on what kind of what is a retard discount? Like, I mean, if you're a retard, honey, that's what we call special needs. So if you have special needs that I have to attend to above and beyond, actually retards pay double. So no, you don't get a discount. You pay double because I have to put up with your now trump me, cancel me. All right. I'm going to open this up here for the last part of this stream and invite any of you who would like to join me, talk to me on camera and microphone. I'm going to put the link. Actually, Jesse's going to do it. I'm going to get it for her. And if you want to come on and talk, let's talk. We've had good success with that with the past couple of streams. I love being able to actually talk to you guys, especially if I can see and hear you. So let me get a link here. Jess, I'm putting it in our backstage chat. And if you can put that in the chat anywhere you want, all you guys need to do is click that. That'll give me a notification that you'd like to come on to the show, and I'll bring you on. So what else have I got going here? Definitely more nicotine. All right, so we did the Genie bottle. We did the dentist nightmare. We did Silence of the Lambs. We did Roberta Esposito. Ching. What else here? Let me look. I can go find some of these comments. Sophie Tarbell, 3251, says, my mother got me hooked on Disaffected and booked a consultation. Thank you very much, Mom. To discuss her narcissistic and abusive mother. It's great to talk to people who understand the dynamic. I'm glad to be helpful. I'm glad your mom found it helpful. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Progman76 thinks there ought to be a Democrat discount. Well, again, like with the retards, it's double or triple for the Democrats. That's not actually true. I shouldn't say that. When you run a consult, it's so weird. Life coaching, there's a connotation with coach that is a little bit hokey, and consulting sounds so like, I'm going to show you how to optimize your business procedures. I haven't quite found the right word for it. So coaching and consulting is the best I can do. But it is true that, of course, given the topics that I'm interested in, and given my public presence as a host of a show and somebody who has a known social media presence, and I'm a conservative, former liberal, my clientele is fairly self-selecting. So the majority of people either come from a cluster B family, or they come from a family or a work situation where everybody around them has drifted so far to the left, even if they haven't gone to the right and consider themselves conservative. But I am open and available to people regardless of what your politics are. We don't have to agree on everything. And I know that this is sort of a little, it's hard to keep things separated because there's a parasocial element. Some of my clients are people who are also show watchers, which is absolutely fine. It's great. But when I'm talking privately with people, I'm not doing this, right? This is performance. This is to have fun. This is a show. It's very different. When I'm sitting on the other side of a camera talking to people as a coach or a consultant, I am not there to perform. I'm there to serve you. I am there for your needs. It's your hour, and I'm going to take whatever you have to say seriously. So I don't screen out anybody. If you're still a Democrat, or if you're always going to be a Democrat, but you have some issues that you want to talk about, I'm not going to get in there and judge you and tell you can't be a Democrat. That's not what this service is for. It would be a disservice. So although I am not a therapist, I do try to hew to the therapeutic idea that when you're serving people in this capacity, you need to have unconditional positive regard for them. That doesn't mean you have to say that everything they do is wonderful, but you have to respect who they are. And it is not my business to change people. What I hope to do in these conversations, many people need a sounding board. And in fact, I do a lot less talking. I do the minimum talking during these. The clients end up talking more, and that's the way it's supposed to be. I can be a sounding board. I can help reflect things back to you. I can tell you what it looks like to an outside observer. But in almost every case, whenever there's a problem that people want to solve, my approach to that is we're going to look at what the realistic options are. If you're stuck in a situation, let's say that there's path A, path B, and path C. And in relationship stuff, those paths could be, I let everything continue as it's going, although it's causing me a lot of distress, but I keep the status quo. Path B might be, I put up higher boundaries. I don't have as much contact with these people that I think are manipulating me or will never accept me for disagreeing with them. Or path C might be, I have to break contact. And I don't push people. I do not push people to take one path or another. But what I do say, I want to make sure that when we talk, you can see clearly what those options are. And you understand that each one is a set of trade-offs. There are positive and negative consequences for path A, B, and C. You and only you can decide which trade-off works better for you. It's not my job to tell you which one. But if you ask me, what do I think is likely if you choose these, I will tell you what I honestly think is likely. There have only been a small handful of clients that I've had where I've gotten didactic and a little pushy. There have been a couple of clients whose lives were actually in danger from a cluster B family member. I've had a couple of clients that I was afraid their children or their parents were going to murder them. Thankfully, that's very rare, but in situations like that, I tell it like it is. I told one guy one day, I said, I'm going to tell you what to do now because I don't think anybody has slapped you across the face and woken you up. You should be able to see this by now. But if you don't hang up the phone with me today and change the locks on your house, I am very afraid your family member is going to come over and shoot you. Your life is in danger. Do you understand that your life is in danger? I've only had to do that with 2 clients. So at any rate, if I can be helpful to you, joshuaslocum.net. Let me get back to private chat here and see. Does anybody want to join, by the way? Jess, we put the link out. If anybody wants to come on and have a little conversation as we get towards the end of the stream, I'd love to have you on. Oh, yeah, we can't share that on YouTube. Sorry about that. We'll try to get that fixed for next time. Artisan Pen says, I'm liking the tall lamp in the background. Is that new? Oh, yeah, it's new-ish. If you're talking about this one here that looks like a vase to the left of that old-time radio, that is one of the latest lamps. And you guys will recognize that was a gift, an extraordinary gift. I'm still embarrassed because I think it was a thank you for some help that I gave him, but I think it was far too generous for the help I gave, but I'm very flattered. That lamp is a gift from Dr. Rollergator, believe it or not. Some of you will know who that is. That is a German lamp. I would guess at 1880s. It's green glass. And it's a vase style. That style is called a banquet lamp because it's tall enough. Well, it would be a banquet lamp. It's more of an accent lamp because the shade cuts a lot of the light. It's more mood lighting. It doesn't actually light up a table with that thick glass shade, but it's very pretty. The bottom is a vase. The middle part is a font that holds the kerosene that you pull out with the burner attached, and then it's got that glass shade on top. But it's extraordinary. It's hand painted, and the scene on it, I know you can't see it on camera, but it's a sylvan scene. It's a weeping willow. It looks like an English or a German scene of a brick and stone footbridge over a winding brook. It's really pretty. And the accenting on it is painted gold leaf. I mean, this is the kind of fancy thing I would never buy for myself. And so it was a really flattering gift. That one you see on the right, that small emerald green one, I call the Emerald Princess, was a gift from my friend Holly and our late friend Adam. They went in on it together. You may remember, many of you, Adam Burgoyne, who died tragically last year from an aortic aneurysm. He dropped dead in his apartment on the way to answering the door. It was really awful. And we miss Adam. But that was a Christmas gift from the two of them, and one of the loveliest things people have ever given me. So I only light it up sometimes, but every time I do, I think of Adam and of course Holly as well. I'm really phlegmy today. I'm sorry for all the throat clearing. Let me get back here and see what we've got going. So Fox says, I can't tell if you can see that I'm trying to join. Oh, I am so sorry. The Fox So Cunning, I'm adding you right to the stage. You are on the stage. Can you see or hear me?
I can see you. I turned my camera off because I'm a prosecutor in New York.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to stop you right in the beginning of introducing yourself, but the first thing I heard was I turned my camera off because I'm a prostitute.
I said, no, I'm a prosecutor in New No, I'm a prosecutor in the state of New York.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm Evan, by the way, Josh. I don't know if if I turn my camera on, you'd probably recognize me.
Oh, I don't out anybody. So whoever you are, you can be as free as you want. Don't worry about your.
Yeah. So I was a prosecutor. I still am. I've been one for 6 years, and I discussed this in the chat. Just returning to like the whole thing of all of these odd reactions to parenting, of normal parenting.
Yeah.
I recall one case where I got into a fight with the police officer because the case they brought to me was the mom got into a fight with her husband. She left the house. The dad was not in the house for some reason, and the 7-year-old boy was left in the care of the 15-year-old sister. And I'm like, is there a problem with the 15-year-old? Is there a reason she can't watch the 7-year-old?
Wait, give me the ages of the children again.
The kid was a 7-year-old boy was left in the care of a 15-year-old sister.
What's wrong with that?
That's what I was trying to get the police officer to explain to me. And I said, is the 15-year-old, is she like disabled? Can she not care for the kid? Is the house dangerous? And they're like, no. And I'm like, listen, I don't think that's great parenting, but it's not endangering. And I had to get my supervisor involved to tell the cop that we're not charging this. There was another case where a dad, they actually ended up charging the dad in this case because they didn't go through our office. And this was part of a complete mess of a custody case where the dad yelled at his 6-year-old daughter, the 6-year-old daughter, I should say. The 6-year-old got so scared, she ran out of the house to grandma's house. And the dad either followed her to grandma's house and walked with her to grandma's house, or met her at grandma's house and waited for grandma at the house. When she was being interviewed by the state police, the girl was inconsistent in the story. So I don't know which of those two things happened. They charged him with endangering. It was the most insane thing I'd ever seen.
Wait, what was the action dad took that constituted the endangerment?
I guess I found this out later, the girl told then a third story after talking with the psycho mom, and she said that dad left her at grandma's house for like 3 hours. But that's like the fourth version of the story that she told.
But wait, being left at grandma's house is not child. Are we to believe that grandmothers are not allowed to watch their grandchildren?
I guess grandma wasn't there. It was very confusing, and the state police didn't do a great job in investigating the whole case to begin with. It was a mess. Now, this is how, but when you actually deal with, and on the opposite end of the spectrum, the way New York deals with it is that in New York, unless you are charged with an A felony, stuff like murder, arson where people die, major drug trafficking, an armed felony, or rape in the first degree, if you are 18 or 19 years old, you are automatically what's called a youthful offender. That is not considered a criminal conviction. If you are at 18? At 18 or 19, you're considered a youthful offender.
Bullshit.
No, it is. Read the.
No. I'm not saying that you're inaccurate. I know that you're stating the law accurately. I'm saying that's a bullshit concept.
Yes. This also includes many sex offenses are not considered. So if it's rape 1, you're a youthful offender. But if it's rape 2, then it's not that. Then you're a youthful offender. That also means you don't have to register as a sex offender. If you're adjudicated a YO, your conviction is sealed. And you guys
hearing this? This is New York State.
Welcome to New York, guys. And also, for instance, if you're adjudicated a youthful offender for, say, a burglary in the 3rd degree, if you are arrested for criminal possession of a weapon after that, now normally, if you're convicted of a crime, I can theoretically charge you with felony criminal possession of a weapon by virtue of the fact that you have a prior conviction. But if it's a YO adjudication, I can't use that as a felony bump up. So then it's insane. It's genuinely, it's the most schizophrenic thing I've ever seen.
Do you have any sense, do you know anything of the history in New York? I know New York State is your specialty. You won't know the ins and outs of the criminal statutes in every other state. Do you have any knowledge of the history of at what point historically, 70s, 80s, any other time, because New York State is not the only one that's done this, but it's one of the worst, if you will, offenders of this phenomenon. When the criminal justice system turned from seeing its primary function as the protection of innocent citizens to to the protection of criminals, because that's what this is. This is the protection of criminals at the expense of the public. If you were telling me that an 18 or 19-year-old who commits a forcible rape, you're like, I'm leaving aside things like statutory rape, Romeo and Juliet stuff. I'm leaving that aside. I don't comment on that.
Well, in fairness, if it's rape 1, which is forcible compulsion, then you're not youthful offender for that one. So in fairness, if you're in New York,
what kind of rape? I don't know what rape 1 means versus like rape 2 or rape 3. So what do those mean?
So rape 1 means rape in the first degree. So that's rape by use of forcible compulsion, rape if you're, I think for rape 1, if you're under the age of 13 and you're over the age of 18, then that's automatically rape in the first degree.
Okay.
And I forget what the other subdivisions are. Rape 2 is some of the statutory ones. I don't have my CPL out. And rape 3 is basically, and our rape statute is weird in New York. So in very simple terms, a lot of the times, if it's not rape in the first degree, which is a B felony punishable by up to 25 years in state prison, then it's rape in the third degree, which is an E felony punishable by up to 4 years in state prison. Our robbery statute is similar that way too.
So do you have any idea at what point in living memory or in historically when New York State's criminal justice system started to coddle criminals more than it punished them?
So this sort of stuff started really around the Michael Brown shooting in Ferguson, Missouri, and that
recently. So we're talking around 2014.
Yeah. 2014 is when a lot of momentum developed to pass the big so-called criminal justice reform laws that were passed in New York back in 2020. There were 2 things that were passed at the same time. One was the discovery reform law that New York that was passed as a part of the New York State budget. Now, in fairness to the discovery laws, the way criminal discovery worked in New York was insane and needed to change, and it was grossly unfair to defendants. As an example, I did not need to provide the names of my witnesses, any way of how to contact my witnesses, or any idea as to what any of these people were going to say when they took the stand until after juror number 12 was sworn.
Okay.
Yes. So literally, as long as I did it after juror number 12 was sworn, you couldn't say this is ridiculous. I should have gotten this sooner. No, you shouldn't have, because I didn't have to give it to you before literally day of trial. When I first learned that rule, I thought it was the most insane rule I'd ever heard. So there was stuff about our discovery laws that needed to change. But then what they did was they swung it totally in the other direction, where we have to turn over all kinds of stuff relatively early. And we could not state ready for trial until we certified that we turned over all of this shit. And that created a whole bunch of other issues. The other thing that got passed around the same time was the bail reform law. So basically what this means is, unless it's a violent felony, I can't ask for bail for most defendants in the state of New York. Assaults, misdemeanor assault, I cannot ask for bail for. Most shoplifting offenses, I can't ask for bail for. Some burglaries, I cannot ask for bail for. Some robberies, I can't ask for bail for. It was completely ridiculous, and it was part of the Black Lives Matter movement. That whole push is when this whole thing really started going. That's when when you say I can't, I want to make sure that I'm clear on this. When you say I can't ask for bail, does that mean that in a case where you, quote, can't ask for bail, that this person just simply is going to be released until trial and they just simply will not be held? Or do I misunderstand? Basically what that means is at arraignment, which is typically when most bail arguments are made, I cannot, for, let's say it's an assault in the third degree, misdemeanor assault. Okay. I cannot, presumably that is non-bail eligible. So they are brought to the court, they are arraigned, they enter their plea, and I essentially have to consent to them being released before trial. I have no choice, regardless of what his prior record is. Now, if he doesn't come to court after a certain number of times, I can then ask the court to set bail on him because his absence is what we call persistent and willful.
But he's already out there, though, and he could be anywhere, and he could be not found.
Yes. So the court can then issue a bench warrant and then set bail.
On average, in cases where this happens and where the bail does come along eventually, how many of these guys are actually apprehended by the cops? What percentage?
It's from.
Is it most of them? Less than half of them?
I really couldn't say. Actually, this is the craziest thing about the way about New York State. So, a bench warrant is different than an arrest warrant. So the police can theoretically ask the judge to issue an arrest warrant. And here's the thing, but when the judge signs that warrant, guess what happens? My statutory speedy trial time starts. So let's say it's for an assault third. I then have 90 days from the date that warrant is signed to state ready for trial. And remember, I can't do that until I've certified that I've turned over all of the discovery. So even if the police don't tell me that they got the warrant, that time is running.
It's stacked against being able to get the criminal.
It's the dumbest part of the CPL. In the past year, I had to call at least 10 victims and say, I have to dismiss the charges. And some of these were even cases where these crimes happened on video. One of this was actually a sexual assault. Where the guy reportedly threatened to kidnap her niece because he was so crazy. I had to say, the police never told me they got this arrest warrant. I have to dismiss the charge.
Is there any hope? Is there any hope of reversing this insanity in New York State?
Well, there is some hope. And I say that advisedly because the discovery laws that I described, a lot of that was reformed. So we now have more tools to fix the discovery fight. Unfortunately, until Kathy Hochul is voted out of office and we elect someone who actually is willing to listen to people who actually prosecute criminal law, I don't know if there's any hope. And
first of all, I don't think Kathy Hochul or a Kathy Hochul type, I'm sorry, I don't believe is going to be voted out of. I mean, I don't know if she'll win the next election because, of course, she wasn't elected in anyway. But I do believe that New York State voters are going to look what New York City just voted for, Mamdani. That's what they're going to do in Albany too. They're going to put somebody like that in the governorship. I
told my brother, I call Kathy Hochul that creepy old woman. And
she's the literal wicked queen. She is the literal Disney wicked queen.
Yeah. It's like I tell people because although Lee Zeldin, when she ran in 2022 against Lee Zeldin did particularly well, but he unfortunately couldn't overtake her. And I say, we don't live in a state. We live in a fetish community that wants to be abused by this woman. And on the subject of Zoran Mondami, that election in New York pissed me off so much because you've got Andrew Cuomo trying to run as the public safety person. And I thought to myself, motherfucker, this is the biggest fraud I've ever seen. You signed the bail law that caused most of this.
Yep. He's a complete scumbag.
And also, New York State is just notoriously bad at writing legislation. Here's an example. When we passed the SAFE Act in 2012, there was what does that mean? What is the SAFE Act? The SAFE Act was the big gun control bill that New York passed. It was when we passed the assault weapons ban in New York, the state level assault weapons ban, all that.
Because there's such a thing as assault weapons, and non-assault weapons.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So they initially put in a magazine limit of 7 rounds. Okay. Guess what this New York State legislature forgot to do when they passed that law? They didn't create an exception for law enforcement. So they accidentally turned every police officer in the state of New York into a criminal.
I, I it
And
is
also, and this is my favorite thing. In New York, there's a category of offense called a sexually motivated offense. And
okay.
basically what it is if you commit one of a list of enumerated felonies, this would be burglary, assault, I think robbery is in that list, and a couple of other crimes. And we prove, if we indict and the people prove that the crime was committed in whole or in part to for the defendant's sexual gratification, then
Yeah.
theoretically, even if you are just convicted of that crime as a sexually motivated felony and not the actual sex offense, you would still have to register as a sex offender.
Okay.
Well, unfortunately, because the way they worded it, there is only one crime that is a sexually motivated offense, and that is a crime of terrorism as a sexually motivated offense.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I'm serious.
I don't understand.
So because of the way the sexually motivated offense statute is worded, there's actually case law from our intermediate appellate courts that says, actually, not only do you have to indict these as sexually motivated felonies, you have to indict these as crimes of terrorism in order for them to be eligible for sex offense registration.
So do I understand correctly that the practical effect of that is prosecutors, there are cases where you cannot in good conscience prosecute this as an act of terrorism, and so therefore you can't?
As if it's as a sexually motivated, you cannot use the sexually motivated felony to get them as a registered sex offender. There's
a comment here from Sage 501. She says, when you problematize law and order, which they are, that's how you destabilize a society. A fractured society can more easily be taken over for global interests. She's absolutely correct. This is conscious. I'm not proposing a conspiracy. This isn't happening behind closed doors. It's just blatant, but it is conscious and deliberate. These people mean to destroy law and order. They do want chaos. They do want New Yorkers to be raped without recourse. They do want them to be shot and killed without recourse. They want this. Do you disagree?
No, I've openly said to people, it's like I've had to tell my victims on times, like, listen, New York State loves criminals. They do. I don't understand it. And it doesn't help when we have judges who are not willing to use what tools the law gives them.
Yes.
For instance, I once had a case. I couldn't believe this. This is a guy who was arrested on his second gun possession charge. He was already awaiting trial on a gun possession charge. He was arrested again for gun possession. The judge let him out ROR. I couldn't believe it.
Amazing. We've got another comment got another comment here that I want to read from Bar Shees. I don't know for sure, but it sounds like Bar Shees may be a lawyer or involved in criminal justice. It says, we have intra-state warrant hits that are limited to 25 or 50 miles, super common. Okay, he's a police officer. Bar Shees is a police officer. So we have intra-state, meaning within state, warrant hits that are limited to 25 or 50 miles, super common. You can do almost any misdemeanor and completely blow off court and just move a few counties away and skate.
Yeah, same thing in New York. A misdemeanor arrest warrant is only enforceable, I believe, in the adjoining counties.
When these things are being proposed, is there anybody who stands up and says, what is the public safety purpose of this? This is insane.
Yes, but the problem is they don't listen to us. Here's an example. In New York, and we've tried to change this multiple times, and we got very close recently, but unfortunately, it just didn't work. I don't know why it didn't work. If I want to prosecute someone for driving under the influence of drugs, I actually need to allege and I need to prove which drug they're on. So I need to say, yes. And so I had a state trooper ask me, how do we do that without a blood test? And guess what my response was?
You can't.
We can't.
And they know it. That's what they meant to happen.
The good news is
they have legal that law, accurately stated, has legalized driving under the influence of drugs.
Yeah, unfortunately, we do get some people who are dumb enough to submit to drug tests, to submit to blood draws so we can, or they admit that they smoked crack or pot. So we can get them that way. I've also done it where someone was, I think the way we were going to move forward was they found hydrocodone on her.
Okay.
We got a drug recognition expert to say she is high on CNS depressants. And I was going to allege that the drug was hydrocodone. Unfortunately, I had to shit can that case for another reason that we don't need to go into here. The good news is New York State actually dodged 2 major bullets, and I'm going to talk about how we dodged them. New York was going to pass something called the Second Look Act. And basically it said that if you are convicted of a crime, if you serve 10 years of your sentence, then you automatically, as a right, you can ask the court to resentence you. Just as a right, just by doing 10 years of your sentence. And if you if you were under 25 when you committed the crime, or you were over, I think it was 65, then there is a rebuttable presumption that you should be resentenced.
Okay.
Now, here's an example. Let's say the Columbine shooting happened in New Dylan Klebold and Eric Harris were captured alive and prosecuted. Because they were both 18 when they committed their offenses, after they served 10 years of their sentence, they could automatically ask for the court for a new sentence. We dodged that bullet. This was the other thing, and actually one of the most bleeding heart judges I've ever met said that if this act, actually, I need to explain what the act was. In New York, we have these things, they're called treatment courts. So we have drug treatment court, we have a veterans treatment court, we have a mental health and wellness court. So the way these courts work, well, they can work if they're run well. The idea is you plead guilty.
They never are, though. They never are.
If you plead guilty to an offense, and you sign a contract with the court, you do regular mental health testing, you keep up with your medications, you maintain drug treatment. And if you successfully complete the court, then you can withdraw your plea and you get to plead to a new sentence, and you can plead to a reduced charge. The idea, so it's sort of like a carrot and stick approach to stuff like drug rehab. They wanted to reform the treatment courts. So basically what that meant was it doesn't matter what anytime, if you successfully complete a treatment court, the case is automatically adjourned in contemplation of dismissal. What that means is, as long as you do not get rearrested within 6 months, the case is dismissed and the charges are sealed. It doesn't matter what you pled into for. And a lot of the judges in New York basically says, if this law is passed in its current form, we will shut down all treatment courts in the state of New York. And I thought to myself, okay, if I'm the DA, then I'm never sending a case to treatment court ever again. Because the DA has to agree to send a case to treatment court. It was the most psychotic thing I'd ever heard. And we dodged a huge bullet with that one.
Unbelievable. Fox, thank you very much. I'm going to thank you for your contribution. I'm going to put Sage up here. Thanks for joining us. I love learning this. You and I have talked in another context, and I've learned something about New York State stuff. But thanks for bringing that to the audience. I appreciate it, man.
And for everyone outside of New York, please pray for us. We need it.
We will. Thanks, man. Hey, Sage.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Oh my God, my blood was boiling listening to Fox, and what is happening in New York. And I think, because I know, New York gets talked about a lot, but I don't know how many people know about all of the really dystopian stuff that is now happening in Virginia. Not my state, but there's really, really disturbing stuff. They are, in fact, a state that's doing the Second Look Act that he was just talking about.
Okay.
So I don't know if it's gone through, they just had some hearings about it, but from what I understand, they are looking at basically everyone who's been sentenced, and it's not even about like, oh, if you've been in jail for X number of years. They're just wholesale looking at convictions and basically taking a second compassionate look to see, what was the sentence too harshly. And the people who are the victims of these crimes, they are invited to come and give their opinion and relive the horror that happened to them, right? To argue why they don't think this should have a second compassionate look. So do you see what we're doing? We're setting up the victim to look like an abuser because they're advocating to keep this person in a cage. And do you see the whole thing is complete reversal? And I think to some extent, at least on the ideological level, because there's the political, there's the ideological, and yes, they have a lot of overlap, but they're not completely the same thing. But I think with the ideology, with whether it's the governors, the activists, the lawyers, a lot of judges, we have a lot of utopians holding positions of power. Yeah. And I think the way they're looking at it with all of these reforms is like, okay, if you have a crime that's been committed, whether it's a sexual assault, just a physical assault, even just theft, whatever the thing is, you have that take place. Once that's done, the way they seem to see it is that, okay, the damage has been done, the victim has been victimized, their suffering, quote unquote, it's kind of over. The act is done. Now, this perpetrator is now potentially a victim of the justice system, right? Do you see what I'm saying? So,
yeah, well, they're a justice-involved individual, Sage. Justice. Now, you know what else do you know what else I've seen? Justice impacted individual. So the perpetrator, the rapist, was impacted, the justice system did a hurt to the rapist by putting the rapist in prison.
This is what I'm saying.
Sick. It's sick.
Because the crime has already happened. So the actual victim has already been victimized. Now we're just creating another victim. Right, we're creating another victim. That's the whole thing. Meanwhile, I don't know how much we're paying attention to Canada and Canada's MAID program, which has basically become a state-sanctioned murder and suicide. It's a state-assisted suicide, which is just murder. Did you see the latest person they just killed? 26 years old. He was suffering from seasonal depression, and they killed him. I saw it. Here's the thing, guys, this is real. This is real. It's not made up. This is really happening. The latest stat I saw, I haven't been able to run it down, but I've seen it from enough sources that I trust that I think it's probably true. 5.1% of all deaths in Canada are now MAID, assisted aid in dying. And the state doctors literally killing people. 5% of the deaths. Here's the thing you're not supposed to say. Of that 5.1%, the overwhelming majority of them are white. Really? Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm so surprised. Right? So all of these ideologies, right? Like the climate extremism, which wants us to basically not exist as a human race anymore, right? You've got decolonization, which is basically like genocide white people, right? Yep. You've got the growing like weird fetish for Islam, right? The mass migration, all of this serves the exact same agenda. It's all the same thing, just different roads to get there. So that's the thing. Like, there's just so much sickness. But back to Virginia for one quick second. One of the other things that they are trying to get rid of with this new cunt they have, what's her name? Abigail
Spanberger.
Whatever. But
Governor McCunt.
they're trying to, well, she signed an executive order, as far as I know. They are outlawing hand ballot counting.
Oh, no.
You will never have a fair election in that state again. That is going to
Ever
be
again.
a Democrat stronghold. That's it. It's over. If that really goes unchallenged, that is it.
This has to, the only solution, I don't know what the mechanisms are, and I don't know what's available, but it seems to me that the only solution to a state like Virginia that would actually put in place something like you're not allowed to hand count ballots, and the feds are going to have to use force. The federal government will have to forcibly stop this.
Mm-hmm.
Like I hope the Department of Justice has a legal mechanism, a statutory trigger, or something where they can forcibly stop this.
Yeah, but I worry that the political will is not there. That's the problem. The other thing that they did, I don't know if you saw this with Virginia, did you know that not only are they putting forth these crazy laws around Islamophobia, but Islamophobia is now going to be legally counted as assault and battery? I'm not kidding you.
Is there okay, I really would like to read the wording of a proposed statute about that. Oh my gosh.
Go look at that. I can't imagine that is going to withstand even the first legal challenge. I don't see how that would be possible, but I'm concerned. I mean, that's deranged.
Well, yeah, Sage, at this point, I'm sorry. We people with our eyes open, we don't have the luxury any longer of saying this won't withstand constitutional scrutiny. Things have happened in the past 10 years that are literally not legally possible under the Constitution of the United States that have become law, and they are in fact happening. Mm-hmm. There's no limit now. There's no limit.
This is what I'm saying. Like, in New York, you know, did you see that whole ridiculous thing about that third world cunt opened her mouth and said she wants to ban dogs as indoor pets?
Yeah. Oh, did you? Okay. If you guys haven't seen this, this was a social media video of a black, I don't know where from, a black Muslim woman. So you know, her face was exposed, but she's wearing the chador, right? But excuse me, I'm sorry. I want you to look with your eyes at this woman with her juicy filled lips and her big lip liner and big, like, she was wearing the kind of lipstick. Forgive me, I'm sorry, but I do mean this, and I'm not crazy, to make her mouth look like a vagina. I'm serious. I'm not joking. It is so lewd. It is so lewd.
No, you're not wrong.
You know, and you're going to tell me I'm a Muslima? No, you're not. You're a whore. You're a whore who is using this as a cover for your Marxist bullshit.
Yeah, well, because now once that tweet, because it's one of the advisors to Mamdani who originally said it, and then you got this slew of videos, and it started, of course, like a whole war. It's been like the dog war on Twitter. But tomorrow, there's this big event that's supposed to happen where people are supposed to come out to Times Square and they're supposed to bring their dogs, and it's like this big act of resistance, right? Like, no, you're not taking our dogs. Okay, awesome, great. Here's my problem. The fact that we are in a situation where stating we are Americans, we are not giving up our dogs, and that this event has to happen and that it's seen as an act of resistance means that we are in a very fucked up place. There is no time in our lives where this would ever have been seen as something like, oh, well, this is revolution. Are you kidding me? Americans with their goddamn dogs, right? But there's also tomorrow at the same time, this big mass, like, Muslim Islamic fucking prayer thing that's set to also happen in Times Square. And I'm like, I just don't see how we course correct in any way that looks even remotely polite or civil, or like, I just feel like, has that ship set? Like, I don't know. I want it to be done.
I do think the only solution now is men with guns. I think it's violence. Yep.
Look at the UK.
I think it's the National Guard, and I don't think there's a political will, but people need to be fucking frog marched at gunpoint, and if they won't stop, they need to be shot dead.
Yeah, I don't understand. And it's like, for politicians, for American politicians to be coming at Randy Fine, whatever people might think of him, I don't know, I don't really give a damn. But when he said, okay, if you're going to make us choose like dogs or Muslims, like, not a difficult choice. Yeah, that's called normal. That's normal. I am terrified of any American who can look at that and be like, oh my God, that's so hateful. It's bigoted. And there was a lot of them. And there was politicians and influencers and podcasters who were like, so hateful. Oh my God, fuck you. Because you're
it's the
really going to
worst.
miss Western civilization when it's gone.
Can we say hi to whoever your beautiful canine is who just put a snout in? Who is this?
That was Mossy. I don't know if he'll come back. Mossy, you want to come back? Do you want to? No. Well, he's a greyhound. He's got his own. He's like, that was.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
cameo.
Greyhound personality for sure.
Are you? Do you want to come back? You can. No. Okay.
Okay. Well, I'm going to bring in, and this is going to be the last one we bring in because we're going to wrap the stream up after this. But Sophie, 3245, is joining us on stage. And Sophie, you are now with us in the show, but your microphone is muted. So if you want to talk, you'll need to unmute.
Good evening, Josh.
Good evening, Sophie. Thank you for joining us. How can we help you, madam?
It's great to be here. I love your show and I love what you do. I'm coming here, tuning in from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And I want to discuss.
Have you and I spoken before, by the way?
No, this is my first ever.
Okay, well, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I've been a huge fan of the show for a number of years now.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's been great. So I want to talk about the state of our education, specifically in Pennsylvania. But what really, I've listened to your episode on the how phonics is being taught in American public schools this year, and how I just want to let you know that this, yeah, not being taught at all. This is completely true. I have a younger sibling who's still in American public schools. He has dyslexia, and he was not diagnosed with dyslexia until the 6th grade, which is insane to me, considering that a reading curriculum is taught supposedly from kindergarten to 6th grade, and how educators, quote unquote, are unable to identify a disability that prevents you from reading for that long.
For a dyslexic, phonics is important. Phonics is the only correct way to teach reading, period.
I 100% agree.
There is no such thing as a learning style that doesn't do good. That's not true. Humans have a wiring, and that wiring needs phonics, sounding words out, decoding phonemes and letter combinations. But it is even more crucial for a dyslexic. A dyslexic has no chance at learning to read without phonics instruction.
I 100% agree.
I'm severely dyslexic, and phonics, I would be sitting here illiterate if it wasn't for phonics.
Literally, yes, you would not be able to read.
I wouldn't be able to read.
It is so disappointing, because my younger brother, how he was taught, and I witnessed this firsthand, is he was given a sheet of words he was to memorize. And then he wouldn't have a spelling test, but he would have almost like a speaking test. And this is part of the public school regular curriculum. And this is also something that he did. Once they found out that he was dyslexic, they would bring him into a separate room, and he would do speaking activities instead of actually learning how to read and write, which is just retarded.
What is a speaking activity?
So
speaking activity.
Yeah, I know. Oh my goodness. So he would be given a sheet of words. He would have to memorize how to, sound them out, not sound them out, excuse me, how to say them and how to use them in their meanings. And then
Okay.
he would be graded and tested on saying a sentence and using the word correctly.
That's not reading.
No, it's not. It's not. So they were trying to tiptoe their way around teaching him how to read, which is just insane to me. And how I see it is they're just limiting his ability to read and write. They're limiting his expression, and he's not able. If you're not able to read and write, you're not able to form your own thoughts. Like,
Yeah.
what are they
And
doing?
they're also making sure with any of these kids who are being deprived this way, and most American public school students are being deprived of actual education and literacy. They're making sure that they cannot fight back.
I
And
know.
that if they do
criminal.
fight, they're going to fight for the Marxists and the communists.
It's insane. And this has just been so angering to me because I, was a student in the early 2000s, and I
was going to ask, Sophie, how old are you? If you've got a younger brother in public school, how old are you? What generation are you in?
This might be surprising for you to hear, Josh, but I'm Gen Z. I'm 19 years old. I'm not typically.
That's why I'm asking, and I'm glad, because I was hoping that would be the answer. So I am genuinely curious. And I know I'm a big forceful personality, but you actually are allowed to disagree with me and push back. So please do if you need to.
Of course.
You've heard what I've said about Gen Z. You are a member of Gen Z. How do you see it? Do you see some of the concerns that I have? Do you see different concerns?
Oh my goodness.
Does it look entirely different? What is it like for you? Because I can tell talking to you, you're an actual adult.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Josh.
Obviously.
The reason why I'm drawn to your show is because it really offers a perspective that I am not able to get, and especially growing up in such a liberal city like Philadelphia. The people I'm surrounded with constantly are just, I cannot express to you how well you hit it on the mark when you're describing it. I'm like, a lot of the kids I interact with are genuine zombies. It's alarming. And
you see it too.
I do see it. I attend UPenn, and for a lot of my classes, there's group projects, the typical college experience. I'm a business major, so a lot of our entrepreneurial projects are with teams, and a lot of these kids are unable to write product pitches. They don't know how to be relatable to a market. They don't have any people skills. And it's alarming because, they've grown up in a system where, they can earn good grades. They can, make their way through a system, but they're not competent. And it's so terrifying to me, as someone who I like to think that my mom introduced me to the show. She raised me very conservatively. I wouldn't say conservatively.
I was going to ask you, how did you, okay, so just honestly.
Yes.
When I was your age, there were already problems, but not most of the problems we have today. When I was your age, my friends sounded like you. This is how we sounded. You sound to me like a full grown-up adult. You are young, you're 19, and your brain isn't yet fully formed, but you sound like a fully grown-up. Like, I could imagine you having children, running your household. You are well-spoken, you pronounce words correctly, you don't have a vocal affectation, you don't talk like this.
I'm so
you sound
glad.
like an adult. Like, you could be 45 years old, right?
You could be Gen X.
Right? The only clue to your age is I can tell from the timbre of your voice that you are a young woman, but you speak with the cadence and the affect of a full adult, and you think like a full adult. This is how I experienced my peers. We were all like you when I was that age. How did you end up being the normal full adult at 19 when most of your generation isn't? What happened what did you get that they're not getting?
I really do have to attribute my the way I am to my mom. She, is actually the one who introduced me to Disaffected. She herself grew up in a household with a narcissistic mother, and surprisingly enough, turned out okay. She's great.
Good.
She offers a lot of perspectives. She listens to a lot of podcasts, and I honestly think that by not being exposed to such frequent internet access and instead, doing a lot of reading, which is why I stress that phonics is so important. I'm a huge reader. Doing a lot of reading, listening to the news a lot, but not just like CNN, but actual news sources. I think I attribute a lot of that to my mom and how I was raised by her. She's a self-described conservative functionalist. So she believes that everything in society should work together to benefit the people long term and not just serve the needs of individuals at a given time, if that makes sense. So
It does make sense.
How crazy is it that is a quote right-wing perspective? Back in the day,
think it's insane.
You could have described a leftist like that, like way back in the day. What's conservative about that?
Yes. Exactly. This was not politically. It was not politically coded. It was not. This was just how people were. And here, I want to read a comment, Sophie. The Riv 132 says, "I'm in college with Gen Z, and Sophie sounds way more mature than the kids I'm in school with."
I appreciate that. That is a good sign.
But you know that it's true, though.
Yes,
because you see it.
Yeah, it really is terrifying.
Is it lonely?
I will say that definitely, like having there's only so much masking you can do. Trying to find a group of friends who are intellectual but like also entertaining to be around.
Right.
It's difficult for sure, and I find a lot of the time I have to pretend to agree with a lot, like especially now that ICE is in Philadelphia.
Oh boy.
Been a lot of outrage at my university about that. And I kind of have to sit there and not really share my opinions because I'm genuinely scared a lot of the time. There's a lot of, it does get lonely. Yes. Yeah, it does, Josh.
Well, you didn't ask me for my advice, but I'm going to offer some anyway. And it's probably something you've already thought of. Make friends with older people. Hang around with people like us.
You're spiritually Gen X.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, this is so like. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but like, you do sound just like us.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
That's a good thing. Really,
it's so unusual. Jess wanted to come on here. For those of you who don't know, Jess Ann is my sister, so we had the same crazy mother and all that other stuff. Jess, hold down court for a second. I'm going to take a quick bathroom break. This has been a long stream, but since we're having good conversation, I don't want to cut it off. But you take over as co-host.
Okay, I'm co-hosting.
Hi, Jess.
How are you?
I wanted to touch base with some of the other people that are here and hanging out, and it's really good to have you back on, Sage. So thanks for coming on the stream.
Oh, I'm so I was so happy that he brought me up, and I come on and I'm like, okay, just be cool, and I start just like ranting like a lunatic. Getting all fired up.
Better than us drowning at the end. And Sophie, I'm so glad you're here. It's a miracle to hear like a 19-year-old just even remotely considering any of these things beyond what you're being indoctrinated as.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on. This has been great.
Yeah. And what's so funny too, that I think that Gen Z has to sort of combat in a way that Gen X didn't, is that like, there was always sort of bad kind of influences and things like that. But what's different now is it's like the institutions themselves are the bad influence. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
That's the problem. Is you're not sort of trying to steer your kid away from like, oh, these sort of rogue bad influences. Like the culture sort of became the bad influence. Like, so you're
Yes.
combating
Yeah.
something that we just didn't. And also, like, for our generation, rebellion used to kind of mean something. I don't know how Gen Z can really rebel because everything is sort of permitted. Like Gen Z, like you rebel by like going to church and being heterosexual. Like,
Yes.
you know, like, how do you rebel when it's just like, oh no, that's fine. No, we're going to validate you. No, you like anything you do is like, we at least had actual rebellion. It meant something. You guys kind of don't, and it's sad because that's a part of growing up. That's part of how you find yourself too.
I agree. There's not really a lot of, I mean, even if there are people who are like-minded, you know, within my circles, I would never know it. There's, you know, people are too scared to speak up, and myself included. I'm guilty of this as well.
No,
But
Me too.
self-preservation. But that's the thing. Is, like,
I had a moment in, you know, and I have so many moments in grocery stores. They should make a General Foods International Coffees commercial about my trips to the grocery store. You know, I'm sitting on the couch with friends. You know, I was at the grocery store. Remember that cashier? Oh yeah, the Troon. Oh yeah. I'm in the grocery store earlier today, picking up cat food, and I see out of the corner of my eye a very big, tall Troon. Big, tall Troon, right? This was an older Troon lady, Laydee. That's the spelling.
That's ma'am.
It is ma'am.
You put the lotion in the basket.
you know, Sesame Street's going to bring it out. Oh, welcome. I am Cookie Monstrous.
careful, Josh. That's a stab to the heart.
Snuffle like
I know. So, but this guy was not the over-sexualized Troon. He was dressed like a 65-year-old businesswoman, you know, like conservative clothing, strand of pearls, page boy wig. So, I mean, ridiculous, yes, but conventional, normal, respectable woman dress rather than sexualized dress. But I had this moment in my head where I have to do these quick calculations. If I have to have an interaction with this person around, what am I going to do? And I realized in the moment that I'm in Montpelier, Vermont. So this is me telling you that I'm a big hard ass on this show about don't use the pronouns, don't give in. But I want to tell you that I also understand that there are moments when you have to make compromises, because I would have had to make a compromise. If I had to say, like, if we were standing in line and the cashier was like, who's next? And I had to say something like, I would probably say this lady is next, only to keep myself, only to stop a drama and perhaps a physical confrontation. Because in Montpelier, Vermont, if I didn't do it, I would be, not that I'm not willing to defend myself, but I might have been in the middle of a screaming match that could have turned physical that I wasn't prepared for.
And not
do you know what I mean?
Like, not even just from that person, from possibly.
No, I don't even mean. I bet that person himself, just given the way he presented himself, is probably not the super dangerous kind. With you know, that I'm a good reader of people. You know, I'm not perfect, but I didn't get a danger signal from this guy, like, you know, that he's the kind that, you know, actually whatever. I would be afraid of the onlookers. I'd be afraid of the staff in the store. Yep. I would be afraid of the heterosexual fathers standing in line with me.
Yep.
Seriously.
Yeah.
I'm so lucky to be like in a place that I don't know. I mean, today I had not a similar experience, but something that you've talked about on the show before, the lack of professionalism in otherwise professional spaces. Today I had my very first eye doctor appointment because I can't see very well anymore. And
bitch, wait till you get to 40. After 50, fuck it, you're blind.
Oh my gosh. So I get to the office. there's, one person, and at the stand, I had a coupon for the actual eye doctor, but I tried to cash it in, and for whatever reason, you couldn't cash a coupon and also use health insurance for it. So I was trying to do a coupon, but I couldn't with the health insurance. So overwhelmingly poor experience in customer service. I asked him, "Oh, hey, I have a coupon. Can I get off if I end up buying glasses frames today?" And he was like, "Well, aren't you on insurance?"
Yeah, you do the voice so well. Do it again. Do it again.
What do you want me to say, Josh?
Just do it again exactly the same way.
Okay. Well, aren't you on insurance?
Oh my God. Clip that. Sophie has money.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. And it wasn't just that interaction.
You definitely watched Disaffected.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I made sure to pick out the most borderline glasses frames I possibly could.
Are they like really big and chunky with a wing on them?
Oh my gosh, there is the amount of glasses frames that they even offered is criminal. It was like, what? Who would even buy these? Oh my gosh, it's like, this is what's wrong with society. This is what making people
The
how
ones
they are.
that
The
like
very availability of those glasses frames is a human rights violation.
I agree. Oh my gosh.
they have.
Okay, so it wasn't even that interaction. I go to the back, and you know how they do the original screening where they spritz your eyes with air before you even get to see the doctor.
Oh, I hate that. I hate that.
Pressure testing.
Oh, it's terrible.
It's so.
I agree. And so I go, and there's this guy, couldn't be more than 25 years old, and he has 2 AirPods in, multiple facial piercings. He's not even wearing like jeans. He's wearing these like worker cargo pants, ones that they're like adjacent to like a gardener, if I could describe it. And then like a Metallica t-shirt. And I'm like, okay, I'm at an optometrist.
On the sales floor?
Not on the sales floor, in operating the machinery. And I was like, I sit down and I'm like, okay, I'm ready for the doctor now.
He's like, I feel like I am the doctor.
Yeah, it was.
You guys remember, you guys, you're supposed to bring your whole selves to work, right?
Yeah, gosh.
Yeah.
It's like, maybe leave that part at home.
Yeah, no, and let me tell you, you know how that's spelled these days? You're bringing your HOLE selves to work, your whole selves.
Whole selves. Yeah, so I eventually get to the optometrist. And again, I've never, maybe this is just a fault on my end. Maybe this is just me not knowing what I'm doing at the optometrist office. But I thought, it was never really explained to me that when they say, okay, this lens or that lens, whether or not I'm supposed to be looking at what's bigger physically, like the letters are bigger, or what's clearer. Because for me, sometimes when I was looking through the different lenses, some of them would be bigger and it would appear closer to me, but they wouldn't be as focused or clear.
They're supposed to explain this to you. The answer, the actual answer is they're supposed to switch the lenses until the line, you know, there's like big and then it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. They tell you to concentrate on a certain line. You're supposed to tell them when that line becomes clearest, but they're supposed to explain that to you
at all. And so I genuinely do not think that I got the right prescription.
You probably didn't.
Yeah, so this was not explained to me. And so he would ask me this lens or this lens, and I was like, well, what are you asking? And he was like, which one looks better? And
No. What do you mean it looks better? Well, I think this one makes the letters look prettier.
Yeah, I was so confused. And eventually I was like, I don't understand what you're asking me to identify right now. And then he was like, well, usually what's bigger is what's better. And I was like, okay.
No, that's what
so
these
frustrated.
are. These are reading glasses. These are cheap reading glasses. They're magnifiers. They're literally just magnifying lenses in glasses frames. They allow me. They make text in front of me clear enough through enlargement to read, right?
Yes,
So it gives
yeah.
the effect of being clear. But these are just magnifiers. They don't actually correct the like if you're nearsighted and you can't see 20 feet away is not clear to you. The solution to that, the prescription is not to make the image that your eyes see bigger, it's to clear it.
Yeah, I agree. And so I walked out of there with a prescription that I knew was faulty, and I went up. This was probably my bad. I probably should have just accepted defeat. But I went up to the same person who said, "No, don't you have insurance?" Because I didn't really know what else to do. And I said, "I don't think I did the test right." And they were like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "I'm leaving. I'm not coming
I'm like,
back."
that's it.
Yeah.
Flipping done.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
You'd be better off at Walmart.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Like Minute Clinic, CVS. It was crazy. I was like, oh my, this is not America's Best. I'll let you know.
Sophie, you're
Best
funny.
Hotel.
Oh,
Yeah.
that is so kind to hear from you, Josh. I appreciate it. I do my hair in the morning and I listen to Disaffected and I'm like chuckling to myself. I sound schizophrenic.
Yeah, there's somebody, I think that the alternate name of Disaffected, the absolute best alternate name that anybody came up with was from a viewer. Actually, a woman and her husband, they wrote to me and they said, we love listening to your show. We call it the Angry Faggot Podcast.
Oh my gosh, my mom, I don't know if you remember this, but I remember this vividly. My mom and I, we were sitting in the car, we were listening to the show, and it was the one where you go meow 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 meow. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, the Meow Mix song, yes.
Yes. And we were like, okay, Josh is going off the rails.
You know what you should do the next time you think I'm going off the rails? You need do it my mother style. So what you do, right, is you send me an email, but you CC like other people who are not appropriate to be on that email, and you write, I'm just I'm a little worried about you and wondering if you're taking your medication.
Oh my gosh.
Oh no.
Do you know the story about that? I've told it before. I'll tell it again now.
Is it when your mom called your work? Am I?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
My mother. No, she didn't just call. I mean, she did a lot of things.
There were a lot of things.
There were a lot of things. So at the, she called up. Okay, so I had this friend, my late lamented friend Lisa. Lisa and Steve were a married couple. Lisa died 2 years ago. Steve died about a year ago. As usual, when the wife goes, the husband usually does too. Most men can't make it without their wives when they're old. You know, that's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
But Lisa was my mentor. I met her. Let me tell you about Lisa. I'll do an impression of Lisa. So back in oh gosh. Yeah, it was probably, no, not 99. It was 2000 or 2001. I graduated in 99. Then I moved to Virginia. I lived in Sage. I lived in Lynchburg, Virginia. I lived in Amherst County, Virginia. And I was a reporter for the Lynchburg News and Advance, the daily paper there. And I spent a couple 3 years in journalism, and I got really interested in the funeral industry because I read a famous book called The American Way of Death, which was an expose of the American funeral industry that was first published in 1963 by a really interesting woman named Jessica Mitford. The Mitfords in England are basically dissipated aristocracy. They are shirt-tail peerage that fell on hard times. You know, so they had names and titles, but no money. They were all girls. One of them became best friends with Hitler and Eva Braun. Literally, they would vacation with them. one of Jessica's sisters. Decca became a communist. Decca, Jessica Mitford, became a communist and married a communist labor rights lawyer in San Francisco named Robert Truhaft. And all of this I found extremely charming back in the days when I was a leftist. But her book, The American Way of Death, is riotously funny, but deadly serious too. It was a huge bestseller. It sold millions of copies in the 60s. It was turned into an hour-long CBS documentary called The Great American Funeral, all about how easy it was to get ripped off when you're buying a funeral. Anyway, somebody put a copy of that on my desk. I became fascinated. I started researching local funeral homes. I was just fascinated. And so I contacted this nonprofit organization to get a quote from Lisa Carlson, who was the executive director and who had helped Jessica Mitford do her 1995 revision of the book. And Lisa was the spokeswoman. She was all over everything whenever there was a story like this. She answers, it's 9:30 at night. I'm the cops and crime reporter. So I'm sitting at a desk with a Dell Tower PC, right? And I'm driving a 1975 Dodge Dart that I bought for $500 from a farmer in Virginia with a sign in it that said $500, air conditioning works. And I said, that's for me. And I drove that beautiful beast to every suicide, bridge jumper, fire, murder scene. So I had a walkie-talkie and a bag cell phone. So I would sit there and listen to the police scanner, and whenever anything horrible happened, I would beeline out there. But I had to figure out a story to do we had what were called weekend stories. So if you worked during the week on your beat, you had to do one extra feature off your beat for the Saturday and Sunday edition. So I was looking for a weekend story, wanted to write it about funerals, called up. It's 9:30 at night. I'm like, I'm going to get an answering machine, but I'm going to leave a message and ask this lady, Lisa Carlson, to call me back. Bring. Lisa Carlson. She's got. She had Patty and Selma's voice, Marge Simpson's sisters, because she was getting old and she was a chronic chain smoker and an alcoholic.
Yeah.
She was a badass broad, this woman. And where was I going with this? There was a point to this.
Talking about
I'm sorry. Do you see how I get?
Yeah. You were looking for a weekend story?
Yeah, I was looking for a weekend story, and so Lisa Carlson became my mentor. She we struck up an immediate best friendship over the phone. Mm-hmm. And she says, "You've been bit by the funeral bug. I don't meet many people like you. You're really interested in this." So we were on the phone with each other every night, blah, 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 blah. She was telling me how to get information out of funeral homes. I was reporting back to her on what I found at the Lynchburg funeral homes, because there was no local chapter of volunteers of the organization in the area. So I said, I volunteer to get you some prices from funeral homes. And 3 weeks later, she calls me and she goes, "Do you want to move to Vermont and take a new job?" And I said, "Doing what?" She's like, "Work for me." And I said, "Yes."
And that was the beginning of the end, Josh.
That was the beginning of the end. So a month later, I picked up and moved to Vermont. I'm actually glad I got out of journalism when I did, because it was the last dying days of actual journalism. And in a sense, I say it's too bad, because in my third year, I was already winning. I was really good at what I did. I was winning first place Press Association awards for consumer investigative reporting. I could have been, if the media had stayed this way, I could have been big, right? But we were already getting squeezed. In those days, we still had what were called copy editors, but they couldn't edit copy anymore because they were also being pressed to be layout artists. So they spent most of their shift literally trying to find, computerized, but trying to find space in the broadsheet to put copy next to ads and placing ads. So they couldn't even correct spelling errors and stuff. So we were already getting squeezed and squeezed and squeezed and squeezed. And of course, it's gotten so much worse since then. But I did end up moving up here. I did work for Lisa. It was a very strange time, because when Lisa hired me, she hired me to groom me as her successor. And that's what I became. I became the executive director, because when I moved up here, I found out she was in an, no, that's not true. She did disclose this to me and I went anyway. It was an I quit, you're fired situation. She was fighting with the board of directors and they were going to fire her and she was going to quit and all this stuff. So I came in and I was already tainted. It was this really weird political situation where I had to answer this new, I was 27 years old too. And I thought I knew a lot more than I did. But we maintained a friendship over years. And in 2014, Lisa and her husband and her family, they actually treated me like family. She was more of a maternal figure to me than my own mother was. So when I had a heart attack in 2010, for example, my own mother didn't come to visit me in the hospital. I was 36 years old. Lisa said, just, you're moving in. You're moving into the bedroom. Steve and I are going to take care of you. So I lived with them for a couple of weeks. And they were into real estate. They were lower middle class, but they lived she was a frugal Yankee, a real tightwad. She taught me a lot about living frugally, which has stood me in good stead. But they said, you got to get into real estate. Steve and I have kept our income steady and our taxes low by renovating houses, renting them out and stuff like that. So actually Lisa and Steve privately mortgaged me the money to buy this second house that I'm sitting in right now that I bought for my mother. So they moved heaven and earth and lent me $100,000 of their own. This is the kind of generosity that you can't ask for, and I bought this house to give my mother a place. It's a duplex. So I live in the downstairs. I have tenants upstairs. And my mother was living upstairs. And I was giving her $700 rent, which was what she could afford on a disability check, and market rent was like $1,100, $1,200. And I was like, okay, I'm going to make it work because I'm going to rent out the downstairs at market rates. I'm not going to make a profit on it, but I'll break even and be able to pay the taxes. I gave her a really sweet setup, like, you'll never have to be homeless again, because my mother was being thrown out of her apartment, as she always was, because she had the back rent, blah, 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 blah. My mother knew all this. She knew that Lisa and Steve had made this possible, but she was completely ungrateful. The first night I brought my mother over to dinner at Lisa and Steve's house, she got into a fight with Steve and then bitched and complained all the way home about what a rude asshole he was and how terrible he was to guests and how dare he speak to her that way. It was so embarrassing. It was so embarrassing.
Oh my goodness.
But fast.
It's true. I got to hear about it.
Yeah. Fast forward 2 years. Oh, all right. Kevin wants me to do that. I'll do the Shelby. I will do the Shelby. Let me finish with this one. I'm glad you guys like these stories because obviously I have so much fun hamming it up telling them. So my mother was only here for 2 years and everything fell apart. I had a nervous breakdown. It was horrible. It was the worst time of my life. Everything fell apart. And that's when Jesse was the one who finally told me, Josh, this is something called a cluster B personality disorder. Our mother is a narcissist. I did not know what that was. Jesse did before I did. So she's responsible for my eyes opening on this. And it was immediately clear that was correct. And this explained everything. It explained our entire childhood. It made everything make sense. I mean, it's a crazy world, but if you understand cluster B's internal logic, then you can see how it works, right?
Mm-hmm.
I went to eviction court. It was terrible. Like they were like stalking Jesse. Jesse came up to visit me at my other house, and my mother showed up at the door, unannounced with her husband banging on the door.
Oh my gosh.
Really discomfiting Jesse. And I was like, you are not going to get to her through me. And I'm yelling at my mother, like, get the fuck off my property or I'm calling the police, had to repeat it 3 times, before, and then really do it at full voice and scream at her and say, get the fuck off my property. She was just relentless. But she and her husband, my mother and her husband, when I started eviction proceedings, after she'd been so ungrateful to Lisa and Steve, she called up Lisa at home to say to Lisa, I'm really worried about Josh. He's not acting right. Do you know that he takes psychoactive antidepressants? I've been on antidepressants for like 30 years. Do you know? I don't think he's taking as much. She tried to, make it look like I was crazy, and Lisa lost her fucking shit. And she lambasted my mother, and she said,
She was
"You
correct.
need."
She was correct.
She said, "You need to get the fuck out of that house. He told you to get out, blah, 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 blah." And then my mother, I can't believe she spoke to me this way. Because I called my mother and I was like, what the hell are you doing? What is wrong with you? You're calling colleagues and friends of mine and acting like I'm crazy. What kind of stupid psycho bitch are you?
Good on you, Josh.
I was only doing it today. I said, no, you weren't doing it to help me. You hate me. You've always hated your children. You don't love your children. You're fucking insane. At this point, I completely lost it with her, So when that didn't work, then she had her husband write letters to my board of directors at my job, telling them that I was mentally unstable. She tried to get me fired.
No,
And
she
in
was
fact,
ruining your life.
Oh,
her
my goodness.
husband threatened me, and I have it in writing. I still have all this stuff. I never look at it anymore, but I have a paper folder labeled parents. I've got all of this on paper. It's in my file cabinet. Her husband threatened me. He's like, "You're never going to work in journalism again. You're never going to work in a nonprofit. We're going to take your reputation away from you. You're dangerous and insane. You're an elder abuser, and I'm going to take you down." And I'm like, "You're a lunatic." So at any rate, that was the story about that. But that is what cluster B parents will get up to. They will. This is why I say, and Jesse, if you see it differently, or jump in and stuff. But
No, I don't.
When Jesse told me, our mother is a narcissist, she was right. I immediately keyed in on borderline personality disorder in our mother. She's both. I now believe that cluster B is usually a custom mix of all the traits. I don't think there are discrete disorders for everyone. So I think my mother straddled the line among most of them. I experienced her the majority of the time as a borderline because I was the enmeshed gay son that she depended on. So she was a waif with me a lot of the time, whereas with my sister, she acted more the narcissist, the competitive, using my sister as a Cinderella and a slave. But it was because of those behaviors. It was because she was willing to try to financially ruin me and ruin my reputation that I say, my mother also has psychopathic traits. That's not just emotional dysregulation. That's sadistic malice.
Yeah.
I
right.
agree.
And the only
Yeah,
reason
Sophie,
I
go ahead.
knew any of that about her was because she spent my whole childhood and teenage years making sure that anybody and everybody who she put me in front of, as far as psychologists or in mental hospitals, when she started shipping me off after she did it to Josh, she would tell them all I was borderline. So
Yeah,
she
maneuvered a mental institution into diagnosing you with borderline personality disorder at 16 years old. 15?
That's insane. I mean, you would think that these institutions would have, ways around this type of manipulation, but apparently not.
She was a good actress. She would always put on the tears when she's smart. So the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Her manipulation tactics were clever enough that she got away with it as long as nobody got to know her. But the instant she had any intimate friendships or relationships that would last more than a few months, people would turn and not want to deal with her anymore. And she would always, my whole life, wonder why I was her only friend. I'm like, well, because I have to be here.
Does she I don't know if it's okay to ask this, but does she
It's okay to ask anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just sort of curious, does she ever try to contact either of you?
Josh,
Jess?
yes. But me, she hasn't spoken a word to. The last thing she said to me was through Josh's door when her husband was pounding on it. Final word,
Okay.
Jesse, you're a coward. That's the last I ever heard from her, and it's probably the
Terrible.
last words I'll ever hear from her. And she's got
Has
an
she
awful
found the
lot
show?
of nerve.
I was gonna. That was my other question. Do you think she watches Disaffected?
I
Like,
have
do you
no
think
idea.
I cannot imagine that she is not aware. There, it's just not possible that she hasn't. She knows. She has to, right?
Right.
Right. I mean, she must. I don't know if she knows that I've been doing this show with Josh. I'm sure she's heard him talk about me in his show, but in the off chance that she's ever watching, hey mom, we're on to you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's like
The
I have
last-
nothing left.
I didn't hear
to
from
say.
her for 9 years. Until my birthday this past year when I turned 51.
That's right. I remember you saying that.
I
Mhm.
got a text from her because of course I'd blocked her number, but she got a new phone number, and I got a text. I can't remember it exactly. It was only 2 lines, but it was very close to this. Dear son, happy birthday. I love you and miss you.
Ugh.
I didn't respond to it. So,
Nothing.
I don't
Nothing
even
from
know. Even as much as I know about Cluster Bay, I have no idea what motivated that. I have no idea why she thought that would, because I'm certain. I mean, my mother is a very intelligent woman, and she's very egotistical and very self-centered. She would be looking me up online. There's no way she doesn't know that I have a show, because if you put my name in Google, Disaffected is the first thing that comes up. The very first episode of my show is called Mommy Issues. So I can't figure her out. Jess, I want to ask you a favor. I just put a link in our private chat.
Mhm.
Could you put that out on Rumble
I
and on
can't.
Twitter? You can't
Unless
do that?
I'm an admin on your account, I can't put links.
Okay. I'll tell you what I'm doing, guys.
But you can.
I'm going to put a link out because I'm asking you for financial support for the show, and I realize that not everybody is set up on Rumble or YouTube. I don't even think YouTube is letting us do super chats.
Not at this
But
time.
I'm going to give you a link to our website. It's the Support Us link, and you can actually subscribe monthly. You can start at $5 if you want to support the show, or if you just want to give a one-off. And I know a lot of people don't. I have for subscription fatigue, and I get it. You can just give a one-off in any amount you want, but we really do appreciate your support. It is, with the exception of our sponsor, Bill Tong sponsors us. Literally, like 94% of the money that to make this show comes from you guys, from individuals. So if you like what you get, we would appreciate the support. So I'm going to pop that up into Rumble, and I'm going to pump it up on Twitter, and then I'm going to leave you with one more story and vocal impression, which I think you will find funny, and then we're going to wrap it up for the night. If I can just find out where my stuff is going on Twitter. I don't know if there's been anybody in the chat on Twitter, but there it is anyway. Okay, so who was it who asked? Kev Hill. Hi, Kev. He said, make Dots do the Shelby. I'm going to tell you about Shelby. Shelby.
Oh.
Shelby was my boss, my Uber boss, at my very first newspaper job in Amherst, Virginia, a small town of 4,000 people. And I started out at what used to be called a chicken dinner newspaper. These were the weekly town newspapers that were mostly filled with the proceedings of the Boy Scout Association, the spaghetti supper at the Lutheran Church, the spelling bee, the local kids, just local hometown community stuff. So, but this is where this is where most cub reporters got their start. Before the era of J school, journalism school, it's so fucking stupid. Newspapering was a working class job.
Yep.
And it was a good working class job. And you got really smart and really well educated being thrown into the deep end and having to just literally walk the streets and get the stories. And so, some of this newspaper coverage when it was a working class job was a hell of a lot higher quality than anything we've seen for at least 30 years. So I'm working at the Amherst New Era / Progress. And the building, you got to understand this, guys. The building had been fully renovated in 1962. So when I took the job there in late 99, early 2000, we were still sitting at those great big steel desks that had a Formica institution green inlay and chrome around the outside rim,
Yes.
right? And the green
Like
file,
500 pounds, so you can't.
500 pounds, right? Yeah, big, heavy, clonking desk set phones with real ringers on them. And the highest technology we had was a fax machine. So remember, this is 2000, so the internet was a thing. I was introduced to the internet. I had never heard of the internet before my college orientation in freshman orientation week in 1995. They took all of us Sarah Lawrence kids down to the computer lab and showed us what this thing called email was. And I immediately was like, I live online now, right? It was the best thing. I can send mail to people immediately for free. That's when you had computer labs. So anyway, so it's 2000, and most other businesses and most other competing papers and the television stations at least had email and an internet connection, even though the internet wasn't as big as it is now. So they were getting, the police blotters and stuff, by email and instantly digitally. We were like obituaries came in on the fax machine, and Tina had to type them, retype them from the thing and typeset them and all this stuff. It cost us I was a all-around reporter, but also a photographer, because that's what I trained for in college. My one of my concentrations was actually fine art photography, but I was very technically good with film photography. So they'd run out, I'd cover a fire or a sports game with like 3200 speed, really grainy black and white film, and then I'd run down to the basement, process the shit in the dark room, get it ready, bring it up to the guy who was doing the typesetting. I had a really good time. It was fun. I really liked doing it. But we really wanted the internet. There were like 3 reporters there, and we're all sitting around like, we've got to get Shelby to buy us. We've got to get the internet. So let me tell you about Shelby. Shelby was probably 64, 65 years old, and she looked like an updated version of Endora on Bewitched, if you remember the mother-in-law character on Bewitched. Okay.
Wait, it's Sophie, are you getting this reference?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I want to make sure.
Okay. So it was a little bit toned down makeup. She didn't wear diaphanous flowing things, but she had, the dyed red set hair, the helmet hair, the blue eyeshadow, the heavy lipstick, and always had her nails done. And like, she was the kind that would have like a little rhinestone on her nails, and, so she, she was the assistant to the publisher. So she was like the head lady underneath the owner. And then under her were my editors. And then there were us staff. And she had this office, and the phone, bring. I'm going to answer the phone like Shelby. Bring. Amos Nelson Publishing. Amos Nelson Publishing. She would do it the same way every time. She had this Southern accent. And when I do it, she was white, but she had that kind of Southern accent that there was a crossover with the way Black ladies speak. Southern Black ladies. And she was one of those ladies. I'm doing a voice right now. This is how Shelby spoke. And she was one of those ladies who wore her mouth upside down. You know, if you ever look at an old picture of Betty Davis, maybe from what was that picture? No, not the one in Mexico. The where she the actress, the All About Evenings or whatever. You know, she wore her mouth upside down like Betty Davis. You got to watch out for them ladies that turn their smile upside down into a frown. So Shelby was a real cool customer, and she wasn't going to take guff from nobody.
Oh, I love her.
So Ben and Michael and I were the reporters, and we were trying to hatch a plan to make Shelby get us the internet. And I was the designated pitch man. So we had our plan, but I was the one who had to go in and ask Shelby to get the internet. So I'm like, I'm afraid of her because she's like the mean principal, you know? And I'm walking down to the principal's office. I'm like, Shelby, do you have a minute? And come on in. Come on, sit in front of my desk. She always said, if you had a memo, if you wanted her to know something, you needed to write a memo and leave it on my desk. She pronounced it D-E-S-T, my desk.
Yes.
So just
love
leave
that.
it on my desk.
Leave it on my desk.
So I'm giving her my pitch. I'm like, I know it's an expense, but it's not actually that much. And the Lynchburg News in Advance has it. And the you know, so that's our main competition. Now our Nelson office just got the internet in, and it's a really big advance over. We can get a lot more copy done quickly. You won't have to pay us to actually transcribe and retype everything. And the police blotter can come in and blah, blah, blah. And I'm trying to be all chipper, and she's sitting behind a desk. It's like this. Let me see if I can show you. So it would be like this. She's drumming her fingers. Just drumming her fingers like this. Just staring at me, not blinking at all. We don't need no internets.
We don't need that.
And I'm like, well, I don't know where to go from here. And I was like, well, I'd really like you to consider, well, write me up a memo and leave it on my desk. And the other thing about Shelby, she was very proud of what she had accomplished in life because she drove a great big long Elvis Presley white Cadillac sedan DeVille.
Oh man, if we could bring her back right now and just like have her here, that would be so fantastic. I want to find.
I know. Well, she's got to be dead now. She's got to be dead now.
No.
Rest in
but
peace.
she lives on. She's one of my favorite characters. I always.
She sounds like she's like the grandmother of the We Do Not Care Club.
She
Yes!
You know?
She's Melanie's grandma.
Yeah.
Except she's white.
Except
she sounds like she sounds like someone that you're saying she's dead. I don't know. That woman sounds like someone who's gonna outlive like kind
Like
of
us.
everyone.
Yeah.
You know what? She might be that 111-year-old
She's-
lady who gets an anniversary story in the newspaper where they ask where
Exactly.
they ask the questions about what the secret to her longevity is.
Shelby's an eternal force.
it's
She's
whiskey.
saying the secret is no internets.
No,
We don't need
no
no
internet.
internets. The drum in the fingers. You know, like Shelby just did not have time for your nonsense.
We do not care.
But did you drum them with like the
We do
clicky
not
clacky?
care. All right. I'm going to read one more because somebody was kind enough to give me another two. I'm just the $2 hoe
Yeah,
this
$2
thing,
hooker over
apparently.
here.
Okay, y'all are sore that Trader Joe's got rid of $2 Chuck and it's been $3 Chuck for the last 15 years. So you're gonna make it $2 Josh.
Let's show it.
LMP
Buckeyes.
69, $2. Thank you very much. I'll buy a Reese's. Says, Josh, do look up Laura Owens. She's a younger, much dumber version of your mom. It gets better. She claimed pregnancy after a blowjob. I wish I were joking. But
That's
Wait,
worth looking up for next
did
week.
she say, did she think the baby was actually growing in her actual stomach? Because I assume she swallowed.
You don't even know what's possible. Men can have babies.
Can you have an ectopic pregnancy in your esophagus?
If you reroute your tubes or they got tied, I think that's what happens.
You think she's gonna you know?
Oh my God.
Oh,
All right. This has been enormous fun. Thank you, all of you who are watching on every platform. Thank you for the comments. Thanks for jumping in. And thank you guys who've joined me on this. This is a really
and
good,
Fox
fun time.
too, for joining. Sophie,
Yeah.
Sage, Fox, thank you guys.
Yes,
Yes,
appreciate it. My God, we've gone for 3
a fun
hours. This is a
time.
really long stream. I'm going to have to stop
We'll
this
have
so
to
we don't
cut
wear
it
out our
off.
welcome.
Thank
Um,
you for letting me hang out with you guys again.
Yes.
Thank you.
It was really
Thanks,
nice
and
to
those
meet
of
you
you-
guys.
Those of you watching, if you want to do this next week when we do it, we might be moving to Wednesdays for the live stream. I'm not sure yet. If that happens, we'll announce that because we're working on the schedule for Disaffected.
things.
With Kevin, the big show. This Sunday, of course, is our main show. The flagship show, Disaffected, comes out at 9 p.m. Sunday nights on YouTube, Rumble, and Twitter/X. If you're interested in supporting us financially, we'd really appreciate it. If you want to be a monthly subscribing member, you get an invitation to our private members-only Discord chat server. And a lot of the people who've commented today are there. It's mainly what I call the Cluster B Kids Club. So most of the people in there have had some experience with the kind of things we do. There's different topic areas. People are extremely friendly. There's very, very little drama there. Every once in a while, every 6 months, somebody will have a fight and go off there. But it's not like a lot of places you've been. It's a group of really good people. And you get that if you sign up at disaffectedpod.substack.com or on subscribestar.com/disaffected. We have 2 platforms because people like different things. And again, of course, if you want to support us with a one-off, very much appreciated. Just go to disaffected.com and click on support us, and we will see you next week. Good night, everybody.